Chapter 55:30. And Shangguan Luyan? Was it really okay for him to beat up the Qingkuan sect disciple? Since when did the cowardly Shangguan family become so bold? Thank you, Senior Shangguan, for your help. Duan Muyu stood up and thanked him politely. Although she didn't need Shangguan Liuyun's help to get rid of Jin Hua, he still helped her. She still had to thank him. Shangguan Luyan swept away his stern look, turned around and said with a smile, Taoist Duanmu, you don't have to be so polite. This is what I should do. Our Shangguan family also has a share in this inn. We can't just watch others break the rules. In fact, this was all nonsense. Shangguan Luyan was just giving face to Lin Yi. How did the son of the Qingkuan sect master die? Wasn't it because he wanted to flirt with Duan Muyu? Lin Yi killed Duan Muyu without saying a word. Now that there was an opportunity, if Shangguan Luyan didn't grasp it, then he would be a fool. To be honest, Shangguan Luyan was really grateful to that fool Jin Hua. If it wasn't for him, he wouldn't have the chance to please Lin Yi. However, Shangguan Luyan would never mention Lin Yi. Lin Yi would definitely know about this. If he mentioned Lin Yi now, it would be too deliberate. On the contrary, it would make Lin Yi remember that Shangguan Luyan helped him. Senior Shangguan, please call me by my name directly. Duan Muyu still didn't know about the relationship between the Shangguan family and Lin Yi. In her eyes, the Shangguan family was still one of the four great sections. Shangguan Luyan was also a powerful nascent soul stage expert. Calling him a fellow Taoist was a bit inappropriate. Don't be so polite, it's just a form of address. Continue eating, I won't disturb you. Shangguan Luyan thought to himself. I want to call you senior. With your relationship with martial uncle master Lin Yi, calling you fellow Taoist is already me climbing up the social ladder. After saying that, Shangguan Luyan immediately took his leave, leaving the confused Duan Muyu to sit down and continue eating in confusion. She didn't know what Lin Yi had been busy with these past 2 days. He didn't even come to look for her. She could only dawdle and eat here, hoping to see him. What a bastard. Duan Muyu chewed hard on the food in her mouth and thought bitterly. Yi Qingqing wanted her to take the initiative to find Lin Yi. But the originally free and easy Duan Muyu became shy again. She completely lost the courage to make tea and play the zither to express her feelings to Lin Yi. After a brief commotion, the hall regained its calm. However, the way the cultivators looked at Duan Muyu had changed. Perhaps they would have to re-evaluate the Yiling sect. No one noticed that a disciple of the Xuanji sect also left the hall quietly after Shangguan Luyan left. He quickly ran back to the Xuanji sect's encampment and reported what he saw to Hong Xianlei. From the situation just now, the Qingkuan sect didn't seem to be as powerful as they had imagined, and the Shangguan clan didn't seem to be as weak as they had expected. This disciple felt that if he reported what he saw to the sect master, perhaps the Xuanji sect would pay attention to their strategy for the archaic meeting. However, after Hong Xianlei heard it, he glared and cursed. Bullshit! What the hell are you talking about? That useless Shangguan Luyan dared to attack someone from the Qingkuan sect? And Jin Hua from the Qingkuan sect? Stop fucking joking. Even if it was a foundation establishment disciple from the Qingkuan sect, would Shangguan Luyan dare to attack him? But what I said is the truth. Jin Hua from the Qingkuan sect was really badly beaten up by Shangguan Luyan. Although he didn't suffer any fatal injuries, he definitely lost all his face. Sect Master, do you think the Shangguan clan has something to rely on? This disciple was loyal to the Xuanji sect and guessed the truth. Hong Xianlei sneered and said, Rely on? I think the Shangguan clan's reliance is a traitor like you, right? Speak. How many benefits did the Blue Cloud sect and the Shangguan clan give you for you to advocate for them so desperately? You want me to return to the North Island, right? What a joke. You want to deceive me with such a small trick? That disciple was stunned. He didn't expect that he would be bought over by the Shangguan clan and the Blue Cloud sect when he came to report the news loyally. Sect Master, what I said is the truth. This happened in front of everyone's eyes. Just ask around, and you'll know that I'm not lying. That disciple's words were reasonable. As long as they went to ask around, they would know that this news was absolutely true. However, Hong Xianlei already had a preconceived notion. He was certain that this disciple was lying to him. Seeing that this fellow was still trying to quibble, he immediately flew into a rage. "You spy! You're still trying to fool me at a time like this? You've really underestimated me. I will definitely not be deceived by a despicable person like you. Men, take him away and lock him up. After the archaic convention is over, bring him back to the sect and deal with him properly. Sect master, this disciple is innocent." Sect master. That unlucky disciple didn't know that no matter what he said, it would no longer change Hong Xuanlei's opinion of him. The farce in the Xuanji sect was not known by the people outside. As the archaic convention was about to begin, the market in the ruins town finally became really lively. At this time, all the sects and clans participating in the Archean Grand Meeting had basically arrived. Therefore, the trading in the marketplace had gradually become lively. Every clan and sect would trade some heavenly materials and earthly treasures at this time. If they were lucky, they might continue to improve their strength before the Archean Grand Meeting and fight for more benefits for their sections. That was Jin Weifeng's plan. So he went to the market early in the morning. He was now a master of the original infant stage, and although he didn't have any bottlenecks before he reached the peak of original infant stage, it would be impossible for him to increase his strength again within 2 or 3 days. After all, he wasn't Lin Yi, and he couldn't use those overbearing methods to directly extract the spiritual energy from the spiritual jades. Regular practice only made his speed a few times faster than others. After looking around, Jin Weifeng felt that there were still a lot of good things. However, after all, he had improved from the foundation establishment stage to the original infant stage in just over a year. He was still not confident in his judgment of these good things. Therefore, Jin Weifeng decided to go back and find Grandmaster Lin Yi and his master Xianijia to have a look together. Jin Weifeng immediately went back to talk to Lin Yi and Xianijia. Both of them immediately agreed. In the past 2 days, Xianijia had used the nascent soul golden core to break through to the great perfection of the original infant stage. Even without Lin Yi, he was already the top combat power in the archaic small underworld. Therefore, there was no point in continuing to cultivate in seclusion. It was not a bad idea to go out and have a look. Chapter 55-31. When the 3 of them went out, Duan Muyu, who had eaten for 4 hours, happened to leave. Lin Yi did not use his divine sense to observe the entire ruined town, so the 2 of them just walked past each other. If Duan Muyu knew about this, he would definitely extend his mealtime to 6 hours. After leaving an inn, Lin Yi asked casually, "Ijia, did our Green Cloud sect have a habit of selling some things in the past?" Xianijia nodded and said, "Of course we do, but we only exchange some small things for some spiritual jades. Now that you've given the sect so many spiritual jades, we don't need to sell things anymore." Xianijia nodded and said, "Of course we do." After a short pause, Xianijia continued, "But before the grand event starts, selling some high-class things is also a demonstration of the sect's strength. The higher the level, the more it can reflect the sect's strength. After all, before the grand event starts, there's a voting session for all the sections. Selling high-class things in the marketplace is a disguised way to canvass votes." "A voting session for all the sects? What's that?" Lin Yi asked curiously. He had never heard of such a thing before. Xianijia then remembered that his Grand Master was not familiar with the rules of the Archean Grand Event, so he quickly explained, "Grand Master, it's actually not something important, so I didn't think of reporting it to you. The so-called voting session for all the sects is actually to determine the qualification to challenge." The so-called qualification to challenge referred to the possibility of challenging the top sections. The original Big 4 and 10 small sects would automatically be qualified to challenge the Big 4 and 10 small sects, but the 10 small sects might not necessarily be qualified to challenge the Big 4, and the other sects might not necessarily be qualified to challenge the 10 small sects. Take the Green Cloud sect as an example. As one of the old 10 small sects, they were qualified to challenge the 10 small sects without voting. However, when all the sects voted, they did not think that the Green Cloud sect was qualified to challenge the Big 4. Therefore, The Green Cloud sect must first challenge the sects that were qualified to challenge the Big Four through voting. After winning, they could continue to challenge the Big Four. If the Green Cloud sect was qualified to challenge the Big Four in the voting session, they could challenge the Big Four at the very beginning. Another example was the Thousand Blades sect. They weren't even part of the 10 small sects. After voting, they would be able to challenge the 10 small sects. If the Thousand Blades sect had the strength of the 4 big sects, but was only qualified to challenge the 10 small sects, then they could only challenge them step by step. They couldn't challenge the 4 big sects. This rule basically allowed the sects that needed to challenge to advance step by step, while the Big 4 and 10 small would have the advantage. After listening to Xinijia's explanation, Lenny thought about it carefully. He felt that this rule was not unreasonable, but it was not completely reasonable either. However, Lenny did not care. With his current strength, he could basically ignore these rules. Let's show them what we've got. Although Lenny could ignore the rules, it was better to avoid trouble if possible. Lenny nodded and continued. Other than enemies, there are our allies and sects that are afraid of us among the sects and families that came to participate in the Archean Grand Meeting. There are also sects that are afraid of us. There are also many that we haven't dealt with before. It's necessary to show our strength. It'll be best if we can get the qualification to challenge the Big Four directly. It'll be a waste of time if we have to fight for the qualification. Granduncle is wise. Xinigia was not surprised at all. He would do whatever Lenny said. It was proven that it was never wrong to follow Lenny. It was Jean Weifeng's first time hearing Lenny say that he wanted to challenge the Big Four. Although he was looking forward to it, he could not hide his excitement when he heard it. Challenging the Big Four was the best stage for Jean Weifeng to repay his granduncle and master. As they spoke, the three arrived at the outskirts of the market. Both sides of the road were filled with small stalls, but they were all in an orderly manner. Lin Yi's divine sense scanned through the stalls and shook his head in disappointment. There was nothing that caught his eye in these stalls. However, the deeper they went, the better the quality of the items. Xinigia saw Lin Yi's expression and quickly explained. Granduncle, the stalls outside are set up by some small sects and the 10 small sects candidates. Further in are the stalls that are qualified to challenge the 10 small sects and the 10 small sections. The items will be much better than the ones here. Lenny nodded faintly and did not say much. With his divine sense, he naturally knew that the items inside were much better than the ones outside. Unfortunately, in Lin Yi's eyes, there was not much difference. At his level, if it was not really good, it would not be able to arouse his interest. Xinigia continued. Actually, the real best items won't be put up for sale at this time. Only after the Archean Grand Meeting ends, and the ranking is settled, will all the sects take out their best items to participate in the final barter exchange meeting and the finale auction. Otherwise, if they take out their best items now, it'll be bad if they end up helping others and getting themselves into trouble in the end. Xinigia continued. That's right. Hearing this, Lenny could not help but smile. This statement was quite interesting, but it was also the truth. If Lenny took out a few nascent Soul Realm golden pills and sold them to rival sects like Qingkuan sect, would it not increase the difficulty of his challenge in the end? However, Lenny himself did not mind having a few more nascent Soul Realm masters as his enemies. It was just that this kind of behavior was too stupid and not something that a normal person would do. Alright, let's find a place to set up our stall. I'm not interested in the items here. It's better to let them have a look, said Lenny with a smile. Then he used his divine sense to look for an empty spot. Soon, he found a good spot that was unoccupied. That's it. Follow me. Lenny pointed at an empty spot in the distance and walked over with Xinigia and Jean Weifeng. When Lenny stopped at the empty spot, Xinigia could not help but twitch his mouth. He wanted to say something, but he did not say anything in the end. Lenny took out some medicinal pills that he did not need and passed them to Xinigia. You set up the stall. Jean Weifeng quickly took over and said, Let me do it. I've done things like setting up a stall before. What a joke. One of them was the Grand Master of Qingyun sect, and the other was the sect leader of Qingyun sect. If they really set up the stall themselves, it would be so embarrassing. Chapter 5532. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go to provide you with wonderful novels to read. Jin Weifeng had good eyesight, but he didn't think that he was now a Yuanying stage-old monster of the Qingyan sect, which meant that he had the status of an elder. A dignified Yuanying stage elder of the Qingyan sect, setting up a stall, was actually not much different from the sect master. When Jin Weifeng checked the elixirs that Lin Yi gave him, he couldn't help but be secretly shocked. What kind of elixirs were these? Although there were no strategic elixirs like Yuanying stage golden elixirs that could directly enhance one's strength, there were many elixirs like the 5th grade recover pill that could save one's life. Moreover, they were all of the best quality. Hey, why did the 5 Elements sect set up a stall so early this year? Let's go and see if there are any elixirs. Seeing that there was a stall here, people immediately rushed over. Lin Yi's ears twitched. He suddenly remembered that the 5 Elements sect was also an alchemist, and that Master Chen was one of them. These people thought that they were from the 5 Elements sect who came out to buy elixirs, but he was too lazy to take the initiative to explain. Wow, this is the best 5th grade recover pill. Am I dreaming? The 5 Elements sect is really going all out this time. Brother, how much is this elixir? Some knowledgeable people saw the 5th grade recover pill at a glance, and immediately rushed over with shining eyes. They couldn't wait to directly grab the elixir in their hands. This was a good thing that could save one's life at a critical moment. Jin Weifeng secretly glanced at Lin Yi, wanting to know how much Lin Yi priced these elixirs. Lin Yi really had no idea about the price of the ancient small world, so he immediately gave Jin Weifeng a look that said, "Do as you see fit." Jin Weifeng immediately knew what was going on. He immediately turned his head, stuck out his chest, and proudly stretched out a finger saying, "This is the best 5th grade recover pill. 50 spirit jades, no bargaining." Lin Yi almost spat out a mouthful of blood. No bargaining, your sister. This is the best recover pill, not the best cabbage. 50 spirit jades? Is it enough for the price of the materials? Lin Yi looked at Jin Weifeng with an exasperated expression. He couldn't tell that this kid was a prodigal. A top-grade 5th grade great revitalizing pill was actually sold for only 50 spirit jades? Speaking of which, why did you have to stretch out a finger to sell it for 50 spirit jades? Representing 1 star? Normally, it should represent 100 spirit jades, right? Unknowingly, Lin Yi had been led into a ditch by Jin Weifeng. Was there a difference between 100 spirit jades and 50 spirit jades? Wow, 50 spirit jades. There was a burst of exclamation from the crowd. Lin Yi reckoned that in the blink of an eye, the elixirs that he had taken out would be snatched up. However, the following words almost made Lin Yi have the urge to vomit blood again. So expensive? It's 50 spirit jades. This was what the passerby said. Exactly. So expensive. But the quality of the elixir is really good. 50 spirit jades for a life. It's really not expensive. This was what the passerby said. I'm going all out, even if I have to sell my pots and pans to buy one. But this elixir is really fucking expensive. Brother, aren't you being too black-hearted? The third passerby painfully took out 50 spirit jades and bought a 5th grade great revitalizing pill. He didn't forget to complain to Jin Weifeng. Lin Yi was sweating profusely. 50 spirit jades is expensive? And black-hearted? Did you come out wearing sunglasses? It's black everywhere you look. If you think this is too expensive, please don't stop. Get lost. Of course, this was just Lin Yi complaining in his heart. Anyway, what about spirit jades? Lin Yi didn't care at all. These elixirs were useless to him. He just wanted to earn some reputation for the Green Cloud sect. But today, everyone seemed to think that the 5 Elements sect was selling elixirs. After all, except for the 5 Elements sect, no one would sell a lot of elixirs. At most, they would exchange 1 or 2 elixirs that they didn't need for themselves for spiritual jades. Lin Yi didn't intend to explain. The 5 Elements sect selling elixirs had become a common thing in the Archean Grand Meeting. If he directly said that these elixirs were from the Green Cloud sect, people might even think that these elixirs were fake. At that time, it would be even harder to sell them. It was better to let someone buy them and study them first. When the reputation of the elixirs was established, the signboard of the Green Cloud sect would be erected tomorrow. Then the original purpose would be achieved. Exainegia said softly. Grand Master, although the price set by Jin Weifeng is low, it's considered acceptable. After all, the other small sects don't have many spiritual jades, so their purchasing power is limited. Exainegia said softly. There was something that Exainegia didn't say. If it wasn't for the sudden appearance of Martial Uncle Lin Yi, the Green Cloud sect would probably be very poor now. Spiritual jades needed to be allocated and used in a planned way. Even if it was an elixir that cost 50 spiritual jades, they wouldn't be willing to buy it. Lin Yi nodded helplessly. When he was in Taishi Island, Ling Tianyu and Wei Yidao fought with each other because of a little spiritual jades. It seemed that the resources of spiritual jades in the small Archean underworld were really scarce. Otherwise, that situation wouldn't have happened. Because of the shortage of spiritual jades, the purchasing power of spiritual jades was relatively strong. It doesn't matter. Anyway, these elixirs are not for earning spiritual jades. Let Jin Weifeng deal with it himself. Lin Yi said lightly. He didn't care about the ridiculously low price anymore. In Lin Yi's opinion, the elixirs were even cheaper than cabbages. However, not everyone could buy them. There had never been such a scene of people rushing to buy them. However, the sales of the elixirs didn't stop. Slowly there were deals. There were still some people who didn't have enough spiritual jades, so they left first to raise money. Some returned to their sects, and some borrowed money from their friends. Anyway, they would still come back later to buy the elixirs they wanted. Lin Yi was naturally impatient to stay here. Seeing that there was no special situation, he left first. Exainegia was worried about his precious disciple, so he stayed to accompany Jin Weifeng. Before the sky turned dark, all the elixirs were finally sold out. Jin Weifeng was counting the spiritual jades while Exainegia helped to clean up the stall. Two people came to the stall in a hurry. Exainegia didn't raise his head and said casually, "It's sold out today. If you want it, come back tomorrow." "You guys are setting up a stall here?" A familiar voice sounded above Exainegia's head. The tone was filled with anger. Exainegia raised his head and saw that it was indeed an old acquaintance. Hong Xianlei of Xuanji sect. Exainegia's face immediately turned cold. He said indifferently, "Is there a problem?" Chapter 5533. A Genius in a Second to Remember Love? We provide you with exciting novels to read. Hong Xianlei did not see what Exainegia was selling, and it was no longer important. What was important was that Exainegia was occupying the stall. "Is there a problem? I'm telling you clearly, remove the word mo." Hong Xianlei was furious. He sneered and said, "Exainegia, don't tell me you don't know whose stall this is. Is this a place where you can set up a stall?" Exainegia stood up straight and looked around nonchalantly. "I don't see whose stall it is. Could it be Xuanji sect?" Hong Xianlei choked. Xuanji sect was not even one of the top 10. How could it be so close to the center? Exainegia was obviously slapping his face. "Exainegia, don't be so shameless," Hong Xianlei yelled angrily. "I'm reminding you out of kindness, because we used to be on the same side. And you're playing dumb with me? You're really dumb." Jin Weifeng came up and whispered to Exainegia. "Master, where did this idiot come from? He's so noisy. Do you want me to chase him away?" "Don't talk nonsense. He's the leader of Xuanji sect, the new right-hand man of Five Elements sect. Look at how cool he is," Exainegia said sarcastically. He was a nice guy, but he could not help but laugh at Hong Xuanlei's ignorance. Hong Xuanlei's face turned pale after being mocked by Exainegia. However, Exainegia still said calmly, "We'll find out soon who's the fool. However, since the stall is empty, the Green Cloud sect will still set up their stall here tomorrow. If you have any objections, you can come again tomorrow." After that, Exainegia nodded at Jin Weifeng, signaling him to ignore Hong Xianlei and go back. Hong Xianlei gnashed his teeth and roared, "Exainegia, don't say I didn't warn you. Go to the Five Elements sect right now and beg for forgiveness. For the sake of the North Island Alliance, I'll forgive you and put in a good word for you. Maybe the Five Elements sect will forgive you." Otherwise you're dead. Xianijia didn't even turn his head. He just said indifferently, people with different beliefs can't make plans together. Hong Xianlei, just take care of yourself. You don't have to worry about the Azure Cloud sect. Putting in a good word for the Blue Cloud sect. Not to mention the fact that the Blue Cloud sect didn't need it at all. Even if it did, the Profound Design sect probably didn't have the qualifications to speak up in the Five Elements sect. Even if the Profound Design sect could speak up, Xianijia didn't think that Hong Xianlei would say anything good. Ever since Xianijia and Hong Xianlei parted on bad terms at Xuanji sect, Xianijia had already seen through Hong Xianlei's character. He had long since thought that Hong Xianlei was not a comrade who could stand by his side through thick and thin. Since that was the case, why should he care about him? However, it was a pity for the Profound Secret sect, which had been around for thousands of years. Hong Xianlei was about to fly into a rage. He immediately roared, "Fine. Xianijia, you're really something. Just you wait. Let's see how long you can be proud of yourself." After saying that, Hong Xianlei quickly overtook Xianijia and Jin Weifeng with his followers. He was ready to complain to the Five Elements sect. Xianijia still walked at a moderate pace, but he secretly shook his head in his heart. The Profound Secrets sect was originally one of the top 10 small sects, but it wasn't without reason that it had declined. Just look at Hong Xianlei. Not only did he have no foresight, but he was also too secretive about the news. Although the Qingquan sect's defeat at the hands of the Shengguan clan hadn't been widely spread, the four great sects were basically aware of it. Those sects that were valued by the four great sects would naturally receive some news as well. Even if they didn't receive any news in this regard, they could infer that the Blue Cloud sect was not a pushover after the death of the son of the Qingquan sect's leader. In any case, there were several pieces of news that proved that the Blue Cloud sect was not to be trifled with. Just look at the Qingquan sect. However, Hong Xianlei, the leader of the Profound Secret sect, was not even one of the top 10 small sections. Why would he provoke the Blue Cloud sect so vigorously? Was it because the Blue Cloud sect was originally a brother sect of the Profound Secrets sect, so he liked to trample on the Blue Cloud sect? Lenny wandered over leisurely. He walked around casually, and happened to meet Xianijia and the rest. "Who's that?" Lenny lifted his chin, and asked casually in Hong Xianlei's direction. He saw what happened earlier from afar, but he didn't use his divine sense to observe. It was just a small matter that didn't deserve his attention. Xianijia chuckled and said bitterly, "It's the leader of the Profound Secrets sect, Hong Xianlei. So it's this idiot." Lenny thought to himself. He glanced at him casually, and then moved his eyes away. There was nothing to pay attention to such a small figure. What's wrong with him? Did he have a conflict with you? Lenny didn't care about Hong Xianlei, but he still cared about Xianijia. Xianijia shrugged and said, "Actually, it's nothing much. It's just that there's an unwritten rule that the best items are sold inside. Usually, only the big four can use it. Our stall today usually belongs to the Five Elements sect. So Hong Xianlei felt that we offended the Five Elements sect. That's why he was furious." "Ha, what a good dog," Lenny said with a light chuckle. He turned his head, and put the matter to the back of his mind. It wasn't a big deal. They just used the Five Elements sect's stall. The Five Elements sect didn't even say anything. So why did the Profound Secret sect make a fuss? However, Lenny finally understood the meaning of those discussions just now. It turned out that it wasn't because they were selling elixirs to make people think that they were from the Five Elements sect, but that the stall actually belonged to the Five Elements sect. After Hong Xianlei left in a rage, he immediately went to the Five Elements sect to ask for an audience. However, with the status of the Profound Secrets sect, it wasn't easy to meet the higher-ups of the Five Elements sect. Hong Xianlei didn't know whether he was lucky or unlucky to meet Lin Yi's old acquaintance, Master Chen. Master Chen, who was in a good mood, didn't think too much and agreed to meet Hong Xianlei. When Hong Xianlei saw Master Chen, he immediately bowed and greeted him. Then he went straight to the point. "Master Chen, I heard that the stall of the Five Elements sect was occupied in the market today." "What? Who is so bold to occupy the stall of the Five Elements sect? Is it the Qingquan sect? Master Chen was slightly stunned. He wasn't as angry as Hong Xianlei thought. Chapter 55-34. Genius 1 second. Remember love? Go. Small. Say net, providing you with wonderful novels to read. I didn't see which sect they were from. I only heard about it from others, Hong Xianlei said slowly. He had deliberated over these words several times in his mind, but he still didn't dare to say it too quickly, for fear that something would go wrong. However, I heard that the people who occupied our Five Elements sect's stall also raised our Five Elements sect's banner. Don't you think that's a disgrace to our Five Elements sect? Although it couldn't be directly said that the Blue Cloud sect did it, it was still necessary to lay the groundwork in advance. When the Blue Cloud sect was exposed, it would be enough for the Five Elements sect to directly crush the Blue Cloud sect. As a result, there was one more place in the 10 small. Master Chen immediately said angrily, "This is simply outrageous. Not only did they occupy our Five Elements sect's stall, but they actually dared to pretend to be us? Investigate immediately and find out who did it. This kind of thing must not be tolerated." Hong Xianlei hurriedly continued, "Master Chen, please calm down. Actually, there is no need to investigate. I heard that these people will continue to pretend to be our Five Elements sect tomorrow and set up a stall. When the time comes, we will know who they are. All right, you did a good job in this matter. I will remember your credit. By the way, what is your name again?" Master Chen nodded approvingly. He wanted to say a few more words of praise, but then he realized that he had forgotten the name of the person in front of him. Love Gobe Small Say Net. Hong Xianlei immediately burst into tears. He kept saying that he was the Five Elements sect, but it turned out that the other party didn't take him seriously at all, and didn't even bother to remember his name. "I am Hong Xianlei, the sect master of Xuanji sect. I hope Master Chen will guide me in the future." Hong Xianlei didn't care if he couldn't remember his name. Now it was enough for Master Chen to remember him. "All right, Hong Xianlei of the Xuanji sect, I'll remember you. Tomorrow, you'll come with me to take a look at this clown who dares to impersonate the Five Elements sect." After Master Chen finished speaking, he indicated that Hong Xianlei could take his leave. Quack! At this moment, Hong Xianlei's heart was filled with tears. He had successfully made Master Chen remember him, but he suddenly wished that Master Chen hadn't remembered him. Hong Xianlei didn't want to accompany Master Chen to cause trouble for the Blue Cloud sect. It was best to let the Five Elemental sect handle this matter themselves. If Hong Xianlei went with Master Chen, the Five Elemental sect might find out that he had instigated trouble. However, since Master Chen had spoken, Hong Xianlei absolutely wouldn't dare to disobey. He had no choice but to accompany him tomorrow. All of a sudden, Hong Xianlei didn't know whether he should hope for the Blue Cloud sect to appear or not. The next day, Hong Xianlei was dragged out by the people of the Five Elements sect and followed Master Chen to the market. Hong Xianlei couldn't resist in the slightest. Soon, they arrived at the stall of the Five Elements sect. However, the stall was surrounded by many cultivators, so they couldn't see what was going on inside. "Get out of the way, get out of the way! Master Chen from the Five Elements sect is here to sell medicine." The work of driving away the crowd was naturally done by Master Chen's followers. When the crowd heard that it was Master Chen from the Five Elements sect, they subconsciously made way for him. Originally, Master Chen did not intend to sell elixirs so early. Usually, the important people would appear last. However, now that there were people pretending to be from the Five Elements sect and snatching their stall, Master Chen naturally couldn't sit still. If he released the elixirs that he had prepared beforehand, he would definitely be able to win back the popularity of the crowd in an instant. Moreover, he would also be able to catch all the people pretending to be from the Five Elements sect in one fell swoop. Master Chen's plan was very good. As long as the elixirs appeared, everyone would revolve around him. At that time, he would humiliate the other party. Not only that, Master Chen could also announce on the spot that if anyone dared to vote for those people, the Five Elements sect would no longer sell elixirs to them. In this way, no one from that unknown sect would vote for them anymore. This idea was simply killing without leaving a trace. It was too awesome. Master Chen couldn't help but admire himself. How could he come up with such a brilliant idea? Under normal circumstances, the development of the situation would be exactly as Master Chen had predicted. This was the power of the Five Elements sect. Master Chen only dared to be so arrogant because he had the backing of the Five Elements sect. The problem was that what Master Chen was facing now was definitely not a normal situation. Seeing that the crowd had automatically made way for him, Master Chen held his head high and walked in, as if he was looking at the road with his nostrils. At the same time, he said arrogantly, "Irrelevant people, get out of the way. I am going to sell elixirs. These elixirs were personally refined by me. To be able to obtain them, you must have walked on the luck of God knows how many lifetimes." If it was in the past, when Master Chen said this, there would definitely be people coming out to support him. However, today there was no response at all. In the past, it was not that the Five Elements sect did not sell elixirs. However, the quality and level of their elixirs were not satisfactory. How could they be better than the elixirs sold by the Blue Cloud sect? Today, Lin Yi had already announced the name of the Blue Cloud sect. With the good reputation from yesterday, the business was much better than yesterday. It's Master Chen from the Five Elements sect. He is also here to sell elixirs. Hurry up, since the Five Elements sect is here. The Blue Cloud sect will not be able to continue setting up their stall. Such good quality and not too expensive elixirs. If we don't buy them now, we might not have another chance. Those in front, please make way. Don't occupy the latrine without taking a shit. When the people in the periphery heard the name of the Five Elements sect, they all made way. However, the group of people in the innermost circle desperately wanted to complete the transaction as soon as possible. Yesterday, the reputation of the Blue Cloud sect's cheap and good quality elixirs had already spread far and wide. No one was stupid. They knew that now that the Five Elements sect was here, it was very likely that this would be the last chance to buy the elixirs of the Blue Cloud sect. Master Chen's face turned a little ugly. He was a dignified alchemy grandmaster of the Five Elements sect. Wherever he went, he would be sought after by people. However, he had never been ignored like this before. Irrelevant people, get out of the way. I am going to sell elixirs. These elixirs were personally refined by me. To be able to obtain them, you must have walked on the luck of God knows how many lifetimes. Master Chen repeated what he said just now. However, by doing so, he unavoidably weakened his imposing manner. The people in the periphery, who made way for him, now looked at him in a somewhat different way. When Hong Xianlei saw that this wasn't a solution, he immediately gave Master Chen's lackeys a look. The two of them walked past Master Chen from the left and right, pushing the people in the innermost circle away with their hands. Get out of the way! Get out of the way! How dare you obstruct the Five Elements sect's business? Which sect or family are you from? Master Chen's lackeys roared loudly, truly frightening some of the people. Chapter 55-35. Get out of the way. Although the item is good, your life is more important. Don't bring trouble to your own sect. Someone on the side also tried to persuade the people inside in a low voice. It was unknown whether they were genuinely concerned about the people inside, or because they couldn't buy the elixirs from the Blue Cloud sect, so they didn't want the people inside to buy them. In any case, with the help of his followers, Master Chen aggressively squeezed his way into the crowd inside. However, just as he was about to say a few words to show off his identity, he saw Lin Yi behind the stall with a playful expression. He was immediately dumbfounded. Hey, isn't this Master Chen of the Five Elements sect? I heard that you had already retired from alchemy. How come you're back in Jianghu? Lin Yi looked at Master Chen with a smile that wasn't a smile and casually mocked him. Master Chen immediately felt so embarrassed that he wanted to die. In his heart, he cursed that bastard Hong Xianlei. Wasn't he fucking setting him up? It was actually Lin Yi here. He couldn't wait to avoid him, but this time, he took the initiative to come to him. Was he courting death? Hearing Lin Yi's subtle mockery, Master Chen was incomparably embarrassed. However, he didn't dare to retort, for fear that Lin Yi would reveal what had happened last time. He could only snort and say, This was refined by me in the past. Why can't it be? Oh, so it was refined by you in the past, Master Chen. I thought you would say that it was refined by your disciple, so the quality would be so poor. Lin Yi had a look of realization on his face, as he continued to mock Master Chen mercilessly. Master Chen's face turned red. He really wanted to say that it was refined by his disciple. But before he came in, he had already said that it was personally refined by Master Chen twice. He really didn't have the face to say that it was refined by his disciple. Impudent. Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to Master Chen like that? Hong Xianlei still didn't seem to have a good sense of judgment. In order to curry favor with Master Chen, he jumped out and pointed at Lin Yi as he roared. Who doesn't know that Master Chen's products are of the highest quality? How can a small sect like yours compare? Hurry up and scram. Lin Yi didn't have much of a reaction, but Master Chen really wanted to slap this idiot, who had been tricking his teammates for 30 years. Can't you see that every one of Lin Yi's pills is of the highest quality? Compared to Lin Yi, even Master Chen had to admit that the quality of his pills is trash. Glaring at Hong Xianlei fiercely, Master Chen turned his head and said in a muffled voice, I forgot that I have an important matter to attend to today. I will take my leave first. Seeing that Master Chen turned around and left, Lin Yi just smiled faintly and said, Remember to take your dog away, lest it barks randomly here. Hong Xuanlei's face darkened. So Lin Yi and Xanijia ignored him just now because they treated his words as a dog barking. Anyhow, he was the sect master of Xuanji sect. He absolutely couldn't tolerate this. Go! Master Chen shouted angrily without turning his head back. Hong Xianlei immediately lowered his head and glared at Xanijia and Lin Yi with resentment. Then, he followed behind Master Chen and left the place. Seeing that the people of Five Elements sect had left, the surrounding audience immediately surrounded them again. Although they didn't understand what was going on, the most important thing was to buy the highest quality pills of Blue Cloud sect first. After walking for a distance, Hong Xianlei approached Master Chen and asked in a low voice, Master Chen, what's going on? Why are you leaving just like that? Aren't you going to punish them for occupying our Five Elements sect stall? Master Chen turned around and slapped Hong Xuanlei's face. He roared angrily, You fucking tricked me, didn't you? You knew that they were selling pills at such a low price. Yet you still urged me to set up a stall. Don't you know the rules of alchemy? In this case, since they set up a stall, I can't do it anymore. Hong Xianlei wanted to cry but had no tears. Just as he moved his face closer to Master Chen, he was slapped in the face. Something was wrong. Facing Master Chen's anger, Hong Xianlei was also puzzled. He could only carefully say, Master Chen, please calm down. I really didn't know about this rule. Moreover, I didn't see them setting up a stall yesterday. In fact, this so-called rule was simply nonsense. Master Chen didn't have the nerve to mention that the quality of Lin Yi and the others were all of the highest quality, and he couldn't compare to them. He also didn't have the nerve to say that he had suffered losses at the hands of Lin Yi. Thus, he could only make up some random excuse. It doesn't matter if you don't know or not. Master Chen indifferently glanced at Hong Xianlei and said coldly, You can get lost now. Don't ever appear in front of me again. I don't want to see you again. These words were like a bolt from the blue. Hong Xianlei was immediately dumbfounded. Seeing that Master Chen had already turned around and left, Hong Xianlei hurriedly chased after him and begged, Master Chen, please calm down. I was just thinking for our Five Elements sect. I saw that someone had occupied our Five Elements sect stall, so I was anxious and didn't inquire about it clearly. Enough! Who the fuck is talking about us? Who do you think you are? How dare you talk about our Five Elements sect? Master Chen mercilessly shouted angrily and forcefully interrupted Hong Xuanlei's words. I'm not Master Chen's junior. Hong Xianlei wanted to explain, but his words were already somewhat incoherent. What Master Chen meant was to directly expel the Xuanji sect. It wasn't easy for him to find the Five Elements sect as his backing. Hong Xianlei didn't want to be driven out just like that. Master Chen was infuriated when he thought about it. He conveniently slapped Hong Xuanlei's face again. Then, he didn't want to talk nonsense with him anymore. He swaggered off with his followers. Hong Xianlei really wanted to cry this time. Originally, he wanted to mess with the Blue Cloud sect and conveniently show off in front of the higher-ups of the Five Elements sect. The result was completely different from what he had imagined. The script wasn't written like this. However, Hong Xianlei didn't dare to continue following Master Qin anymore. Before he understood the reason, following Master Qin would only be asking for trouble. Moreover, with Master Qin's status in the Five Elements sect, his words were basically no different from the words of the sect master. Especially when this matter was only related to the Xuanji sect. Hong Xianlei, who returned to the Xuanji sect alone, immediately gathered his trusted subordinates to discuss this matter. Tell me, how should we deal with this matter of the Five Elements sect? An elder hesitated and said, Sect Master, there seems to be some secret between the Five Elements sect's Master Chun and the Blue Cloud sect. The more our Xuanji sect interferes in this matter, the less benefits we will get. Moreover, since Master Chen has already said that he wants to expel our Xuanji sect, then in this time's immemorial grand meeting, we basically can't rely on the Five Elements sect as our backing anymore. Chapter 55-36. Another elder said, Sect Master, our Xuanji sect is aiming for the top 10. If we don't have a sect to rely on, we won't be able to enter the top 10. So no matter what, we must find a sect to rely on. Since the Five Elements sect can't do it anymore, let's find a new sect to rely on while we still have time. Hong Xianlei rubbed his forehead and said, Who doesn't know the importance of a sect to rely on? But there are only 4 sects in total. Tell me, which sect should we look for? The Heaven and Earth sect is out of the question. We wanted to go to the Heaven and Earth sect from the beginning, but they didn't want to talk to us at all. The elder smiled bitterly and said, Let's not talk about the Five Elements sect. The Heaven Awakening sect, which is ranked 3rd, doesn't have any relationship with us, and they are the furthest away from us. Even if we want to rely on them, they might not be willing to accept us, especially since we have some conflicts with the sect under the Heaven Awakening sect. Why don't you just say that the Shangguan clan is the only one left? Hong Xianlei was in a bad mood. He was the one who took the Xuanji sect and left the Shangguan clan. Plus, he had just had a conflict with the Blue Cloud sect, so he couldn't bring himself to go back to the Shangguan clan. Sect Master, the only sect that can accept us is the Shangguan clan. It seems like the Shangguan clan has become a lot stronger recently, and they don't even give face to the Heaven and Earth sect. Going back to the Shangguan clan is a good choice. The elder was a reasonable person. At least, he had a clearer view of the situation than Hong Xianlei. Hong Xianlei nodded his head and said, It's not impossible for us to return to the Shangguan clan. I think the Shangguan clan will welcome us with open arms. After all, they are the weakest among the 4 big clans, and they don't have many powerful sections. Our Profound G sect still has a Golden Core cultivator and 2 Peak Late Golden Core cultivators. It will be a great help to the Shangguan clan. If Shangguan Qingyan heard this, he would definitely ask Hong Xianlei where he got his confidence from. In the archaic grand meeting, the decisive factor was always the nascent soul realm cultivators. A few Golden Core realm cultivators could only wave the flag and cheer. After discussing with his 2 trusted subordinates, Hong Xianlei finally decided to return to the Shangguan clan as soon as possible. If he waited for the news of the Five Elements sect expelling the Profound Formula sect to spread, the Profound Formula sect's status would drop even further. With the help of Lin Yi's nascent soul and Golden Core, Shangguan Qingyan had already broken through to the nascent soul great perfection in the past 2 days. He also had a complete mental cultivation technique to cultivate. Just when he was feeling complacent, he heard that the Profound Theory sect's sect master, Hong Xianlei, had come to visit, so he immediately met Hong Xianlei. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Hong Xianlei went straight to the point and said, Shangguan clan leader, apart from paying a visit to clan leader, this junior is here to pay a visit to the Shangguan clan, so that our Profound Secret sect can return to the Shangguan clan. Oh, I'm naturally happy that Sect Master Hong has such an idea. However, I don't know why Sect Master Hong suddenly wants to return to the Shangguan clan. Shengguan Qinyan said with a smile. In his heart, he was wondering if the profound formula sect's return was the blue cloud sect's idea. Previously, Exanigia had sent a message to Shengguan Qinyan, asking him to inform the Soaring Heaven sect to advance and retreat together in the archaic meeting. Of course, to the outside world, it was still said that the Shengguan clan was the Soaring Heaven sect's backer. Now that the profound formula sect's Hong Xianlei was here, could it be for the same reason? If it was really someone from the Blue Cloud sect who asked Hong Xianlei to come, Shengguan Qinyan wouldn't neglect him. Because of this, Shengguan Qinyan was very polite and enthusiastic towards Hong Xianlei. Hong Xianlei let out a soft sigh and said with a melancholy expression, Shengguan clan leader, to be honest, after our profound formula sect joined the Five Elemental sect, we weren't welcomed by them at all. Furthermore, there are many sects and families under the Five Elemental sect, and in terms of seniority, our profound formula sect is ranked at the bottom. Therefore, not only does the Five Elemental sect not value us, even the other sects and families can order us around. Thinking about how the Shengguan clan took care of our profound formula sect in the past, compared to the Five Elemental sect, it's like the difference between heaven and earth. This junior feels very uneasy, and I feel that returning to the Shengguan clan is the right way. Shengguan Qinyan was slightly startled. Although Hong Xianlei was very humble, if it was really the Blue Cloud sect who asked the profound formula sect to return, Hong Xianlei only needed to mention the Blue Cloud sect. Why would he bring up so many useless things? It's a good thing that sect leader Hong is able to return. Let's not talk about the past, and let's advance together in the future. Shengguan Qinyan didn't know what else to say, so he could only comfort him. Hong Xianlei was immediately overjoyed when he heard this. As he expected, the Shengguan clan was very happy for the profound formula sect's return. After all, the Shengguan clan still needed to strengthen themselves. Shengguan clan leader is truly a wise and far-sighted representative. Under your wise leadership, our Shengguan clan will definitely rise to the next level in this archaic grand meeting. Hong Xianlei smiled, his eyes squinted, and words of flattery came out of his mouth. Not at all, not at all. Sect leader Hong is too polite. Shengguan Qinyan quickly waved his hand. He was very clear about his own capabilities. Perhaps the Shengguan clan could really rise to the next level in this archaic grand meeting. But it definitely wouldn't be, because of Shengguan Qinyan. Just when Shengguan Qinyan was about to compliment Lin Yi so that Hong Xianlei, who had been pulled back by the Blue Cloud sect, could put in a good word for him, Hong Xianlei suddenly changed the topic. Family leader, you might not know this, but this time, Exanigia from the Blue Cloud sect secretly came to look for me. He wanted me to return to the profound formula sect. This is outrageous. Hong Xianlei slightly lowered his voice, and his expression showed that he was feeling indignant for Shengguan Qinyan. Shengguan Qinyan was stunned, and he didn't know what to say. He thought to himself, if your profound formula sect wasn't pulled back by the Blue Cloud sect, I wouldn't even care about a traitor like you. Of course, Hong Xianlei didn't know what Shengguan Qinyan was thinking, and he continued to make things difficult for the Blue Cloud sect. Family leader, who do you think Exanigia is? He actually dared to bypass our Shengguan clan and secretly tried to rope me in. What a joke! This junior has always been loyal to the family leader, so how could I be influenced by such a small character? This junior's decision to return to the profound formula sect was made after careful consideration. Shengguan Qinyan's expression turned cold. He casually picked up the teacup and took a sip, then asked indifferently, what is sect leader Hong's decision? Hong Xianlei thought that Shengguan Qinyan's expression turned ugly because he was dissatisfied with the Blue Cloud sect. He was even more delighted in his heart. Chapter 5537. Thus, Hong Xianlei continued to stir up trouble. Patriarch, you might not know this yet, but the Azure Cloud sect has been occupying the Five Elements sect's stall for the past 2 days. Today, they've already been caught red-handed by the Five Elements sect. Needless to say, the Five Elements sect will definitely hold the Azure Cloud sect accountable. Our Shangguan family can't be the scapegoat for the Blue Cloud sect. Let's take this opportunity to expel the Blue Cloud sect to avoid any trouble. What do you think, family head? Shangguan Qingyun said expressionlessly. I think Sect Master Hong can go back now. I won't send you off. Hong Xianlei was dumbfounded. Weren't they having a good conversation just now? Why did they suddenly turn hostile? Looking at the teacup in Shangguan Qingyun's hand, he knew that Shangguan Qingyun was sending him off. Family head, this junior is thinking for our Shangguan family. Hong Xianlei felt that something was wrong, so he quickly tried to salvage the situation. Shangguan Qingyun snorted and interrupted him. The Shangguan family is the Shangguan family, and the Xuanji sect is the Xuanji sect. Sect Master Hong, please don't say anything about our Shangguan family. We aren't that close. Why did these words sound so familiar? Although they weren't exactly the same, the meaning seemed to be the same. Hong Xianlei was a little anxious, so he quickly stood up and said, Family head, did this junior say something wrong? Please tell me. Hong Xianlei was completely confused. From Shangguan Qingyun's tone, he seemed to have accepted the Xuanji sect, but now, it seemed like he was rejecting it. What did this mean? You didn't say anything wrong. I was being too tactful. Shangguan Qingyun paused for a moment, then looked at Hong Xianlei and shouted, Get lost. Do you understand now? Hong Xianlei was immediately embarrassed. He understood that Shangguan Qingyun really didn't want to see him anymore. Although he didn't understand what was going on, he could only leave with his tail between his legs. Who do you think you are? You're just one of the 4 weakest clans. Why are you acting so arrogant? You've offended both the Cosmos sect and the 5 Elements sect. Just wait for your sect to be annihilated. Your daddy, lowered my status to join your sect, but you still dare to treat me like this. In the future, even if you all kneel down and beg me, I won't go back. Upon leaving the Shangguan clan's gate, Hong Xianlei immediately started cursing in a low voice. His voice was only loud enough for himself to hear. If anyone from the Shangguan clan heard it, the Xuanji sect would be in big trouble. Hong Xuanlei's followers were waiting outside, so they didn't know what was going on. They couldn't hear Hong Xuanlei's mutterings, but it was obvious that the Xuanji sect had failed. Sect Master, it's fine if the Shangguan clan doesn't want to accept us. After all, they are the weakest of the 4 great clans. Let's just try the Universe sect. The follower took half a step forward and whispered to Hong Xianlei. Hong Xianlei sighed and said, I also want to join the Qingkuan sect, but they didn't even pay attention to us before. Will it make any difference if we go now? Master, did you forget that when we were still in the 5 Elements sect, you were friends with a senior disciple who was in charge of the Qingkuan sect? Although you were using the name of the 5 Elements sect, you were the one who established the relationship with them. Why don't you go and try? The follower had been following Hong Xianlei for a long time, so he knew who Hong Xianlei had been in contact with. So he immediately reminded him. Hong Xuanlei's eyes lit up. That makes sense. If we go alone, the Qingkuan sect might not pay attention to us. But if we have someone we know to introduce us to, then it'll be completely different. Well done. If we succeed, I'll remember your merit. After finding a new way out, Hong Xianlei immediately changed his direction. He went to the Qingkuan sect to look for the manager he was familiar with. However, when the manager heard that Hong Xianlei wanted to join the Qingkuan sect, he immediately rejected him. Even fair-weather friends were considered friends. If it was some trivial matter, then it was fine. But if they accepted the traitor of the Shangguan clan, the Xuanji sect, wasn't that just asking for trouble? What if they attracted Lin Yi's revenge? After Jin Hua suffered a loss at the hands of Shangguan Luyan, the Qingkuan sect had already warned all of their disciples that they were forbidden from interfering with anything related to the Shangguan clan or the Blue Cloud sect. Those who violated the rules would be punished severely. How could this be? How could this be? Hong Xianlei muttered to himself in a daze as he walked. 3 of the 4 great sects had already clearly rejected the profound secret sects offered to join them, so the only choice left was the Heaven Enlightenment faction. Although Hong Xianlei didn't have many acquaintances in the Awakening Heaven faction, and he even had some conflicts with a small sect under the Awakening Heaven faction, He had no other choice but to send a letter to the Awakening Heaven faction. However, he was rejected without a doubt. The Awakening Heaven faction didn't need a sect like the Xuanji sect, which was like a burden. What's the problem? It's impossible that none of the 4 great sects and families want our Xuanji sect. In terms of strength, our Xuanji sect is much stronger than most of the sects and families that aren't part of the 4 big and 10 small sects and families. Hong Xianlei was extremely depressed. If he knew this would happen, he would have just stayed in the North Island Alliance peacefully. Sect Master, don't you still have a spy in your hands? Perhaps it's not a spy from the Blue Cloud sect, but a spy from the Shangguan clan. That's why the Shangguan clan rejected our profound G-sect's offer to join them. Hong Xuanlei's follower could be considered as doing his best. When Hong Xianlei was at a loss of what to do, Hong Xianlei was able to come up with some ideas. That's right. If you didn't mention it, I would have almost forgotten about it. Hong Xianlei clapped his hands, and an excited expression appeared on his face. Let's go back quickly. It doesn't matter if this guy is a spy from the Azure Clouds faction or the Shangguan clan. We can only try to save a dead horse. If we rely on this spy to mediate between us, we might still have a chance. Hong Xianlei was in despair, but it seemed like there was a chance to turn things around. He immediately sped up and returned to the Xuanji sect, bringing out the disciple who had been locked up. Li Yunjia, I don't care if you're a spy from the Shangguan clan or the Azure Clouds faction. From now on, as long as you can complete the mission I've given you, I'll let bygones be bygones. Hong Xianlei sat on a chair, pretending to be amiable as he spoke to the innocent disciple, Li Yunjia. Li Yunjia was still confused. He had only come back to report some information. How did he end up being locked up like a spy? What was going on? Sect Master, disciple isn't a spy. Disciple's heart is only for the Xuanji sect. Li Yunjia tried to defend himself. Hong Xianlei raised his hand and made a gesture, then said, Fine. I believe you're not a spy. How about this? I have something that fits your original mission. I'm sure you'll be happy to hear it. Chapter 55-38. Li Yunjia wanted to explain, but he was interrupted again. Now that the Xuanji sect is preparing to return to the North Island Alliance, I need you to contact the Shangguan clan and the Blue Cloud sect. After all, we had some misunderstandings before, and it's not convenient for me to show myself. As long as you can repair the relationship between the Xuanji sect and the 2 clans, and help the Xuanji sect return to the North Island Alliance, it'll be a great achievement for you. Li Yunjia said in a muffled tone. For the sake of the sect, disciple will go through fire and water without hesitation. But Sect Master, this has nothing to do with disciple's original mission. No, disciple didn't have any mission at all. Hong Xianlei sneered in his heart. You've already spilled the beans, and you're still trying to deny it? But I still need you, the spy, to help me, so I'll let you go for now. Fine, whatever you say, it's all up to you now. Don't disappoint me. You can go now. Hong Xianlei let out a carefree laugh, then sent Li Yunjia away. Li Yunjia walked out of the Xuanji sect's encampment in a daze, then walked towards the Blue Cloud sect with a sad face. He wasn't a spy. He didn't know anyone from the Blue Cloud sect, let alone the Shangguan clan. Although the Blue Cloud sect's status was slightly higher than the Xuanji sect's, they were both from the North Island Alliance, so they should be easier to talk to than the Shangguan clan. Therefore, Li Yunjia subconsciously walked towards the Blue Cloud sect. The disciple guarding the entrance of the Jadian encampment saw Li Yunjia dressed in Xuanji sect's uniform. Without waiting for him to come near, he shouted, Halt! This is already Jadian encampment. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed to come near. Li Yunjia quickly smiled apologetically and said, Fellow disciples, I'm a disciple of the Xuanji sect, and I'd like to see Sect Master Xianjia. Can you help me inform him of my arrival? Sect Master Xian isn't here. Please come back tomorrow. The disciple still didn't allow Li Yunjia to come closer, so he sent him away. Li Yunjia tried his best to persuade Qing Yun's sect, but the disciples guarding Qing Yun's sect only said that Xianjia was not back yet, and asked Li Yunjia to leave immediately. Li Yunjia had no choice but to leave Qing Yin sect's encampment. Looks like sect leader Xian really didn't come back. There's no need for these Blue Cloud sect senior brothers to lie to me. I'd better find something to eat first and wait for sect leader Xian to come back. Li Yunjia rubbed his stomach and muttered softly. After being locked up as a spy for the past few days, no one had come to deliver food to Li Yunjia. At this moment, Li Yunjia was really starving. If it wasn't for his sect's mission, he would have gone to find something to eat when he came out. Li Yunjia quickly arrived at an inn's dining hall. He picked an empty seat at the entrance and sat down. He casually ordered some food that could be served immediately and started wolfing down the food. At the same time, he had to pay attention to see if Xianijia would pass by the entrance. Have you heard? The Xuanji sect was expelled by the Five Elemental sect. What a shame. I've never seen anyone being expelled by a sect that relied on their sect before the archaic grand meeting. I wonder how the Xuanji sect offended the Five Elemental sect. A few cultivators who were sitting 2 tables away from Li Yunjia were chatting with each other. Li Yunjia was startled by their conversation. Is that so? I heard that the Xuanji sect wants to return to the Shangguan clan. It's because they were expelled by the Five Elemental sect. What a shame. If I was the Shangguan clan's clan chief, I would never accept a traitor like this. He went to the Five Elemental sect for the sake of his reputation, but now that he's down on his luck, he wants to return to the Shangguan clan. You're right. The Shangguan clan's clan chief didn't accept the Xuanji sect, and guess what happened next? The Xuanji sect actually wanted to join the Cosmos sect, but they were directly expelled. That's not all. I heard that the Xuanji sect wanted to join the Enlightening Heaven faction, but the Enlightening Heaven faction didn't want to bother with them at all. Now the Xuanji sect is just a joke in the underworld of the immemorial ancient era. The few cultivators sitting at the table were chatting with each other, and their voices weren't low. Not only Li Yunjia could hear them, everyone in the hall could hear them. Li Yunjia was struck dumb. His mouth that was filled with food was wide open, and the food that he didn't swallow fell out from his mouth. The Xuanji sect was already in such a miserable state. It had only been a few days, but how did my sect end up like this? No wonder Sect Chief Hong asked me to repair my relationship with the Shangguan clan and Blue Cloud sect. Li Yunjia really wanted the best for the Xuanji sect. After learning about the Xuanji sect's predicament, he was determined to complete the mission. No matter what, Li Yunjia was still a senior disciple in charge of the Xuanji sect, and although he was nothing in front of Hong Xianlei, the fact that he was chosen to participate in the immemorial grand meeting already proved how outstanding he was. No, I don't have the time to sit here and eat. I need to find Sect Chief Xian as soon as possible, or else the Xuanji sect's situation will only get worse. Li Yunjia spat out the food in his mouth and muttered to himself. After that, he quickly stood up and walked out of the hall. Ruin Town wasn't that big anyway. It wouldn't take too much time to run around. Right after leaving the hall, Li Yunjia was pleasantly surprised to see Xianijia, the Blue Cloud sect's sect chief, and Jin Weifeng were accompanying Lin Yi towards him. Li Yunjia wouldn't miss such a good opportunity. While Xianijia and Lin Yi were chatting casually, someone suddenly rushed towards them and knelt down. Xianijia was shocked. Lin Yi had long since noticed that Li Yunjia was acting a little strange. However, Li Yunjia didn't have any hostility towards him, and his cultivation level was only at the Foundation Establishment Great Circle. So Lin Yi didn't pay any attention to Li Yunjia's actions. It was only until Li Yunjia knelt down in front of him that Lin Yi gave him an indifferent glance, then turned his gaze away. Obviously, he didn't want to talk. Xianijia let out a dry cough. Since Grandmaster Xian didn't want to talk, then he had to do it himself. Who are you? What are you trying to do? Li Yunjia knelt on the ground and cried. Sect Chief Xian, I'm a disciple in charge of the Xuanji sect. I heard that our Xuanji sect is in a difficult situation right now. So I hope Sect Chief Xian can put in a good word for us for the sake of the North Island Alliance, so that the Shangguan clan can accept our Xuanji sect again. Xianijia looked troubled. He was very angry at Hong Xianlei, but his heart softened when he heard that the North Island Alliance was of the same lineage. At the end of the day, Xianijia was still a kind-hearted old man. Jin Weifeng sneered when he saw that his master wasn't saying anything. Now you're talking about the North Island Alliance? What were you doing before? It's not like my master didn't go to Hong Xianlei, but what did Hong Xianlei say? Since Hong Xianlei is so capable, let him find a way to deal with it himself. Chapter 5539. After reaching the nascent soul stage, Jin Weifeng had become a real senior in Green Cloud sect, so he knew a lot of things, such as the whole process of Xianijia looking for Hong Xianlei. Because of this, Jin Weifeng hated Xuanji sect so much. Xianijia was Jin Weifeng's teacher. Who was Hong Xianlei? Li Yunjia burst into tears. Senior, I'm just a disciple of Xuanji sect. I can't interfere with what sect leader Hong does, but I just want Xuanji sect to get through this, that's all. Lin Yi felt that this guy looked a little like Xianijia when he first met him. Seeing that Xianijia was looking at him, his heart softened. He waved his hand and said, "Let's bring him back first. Don't cry here. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? Those who don't know might think that we're ganging up on him." In fact, Lin Yi was not afraid of being laughed at. It was just that it was inconvenient to talk on the street, so he gestured for Xianijia to bring Li Yunjia back to Green Cloud sect space. After returning to Green Cloud sect space, Li Yunjia was still kneeling on the ground and refused to get up. Lin Yi and the rest could only let him be. Tell me what's going on. Xianijia had an idea of what was going on, but he didn't dare to make the decision himself. He could only let Li Yunjia continue to complain, and maybe Lin Yi would agree to the return of Xuanji sect. Li Yunjia also understood that Hong Xianlei must have severely offended the Blue Cloud sect, so he decided not to mention Hong Xianlei at all. He continued to talk about the Profound Secrets sect, hoping that the Blue Cloud sect would help the Profound Secrets sect out of consideration for the North Island Alliance. After hearing that, Lin Yi only sneered and said, Hong Xianlei really knows how to put on airs. He didn't even show his face, and only sent a disciple in charge. Did he think that he could write off everything? It's not like that, Marshal Uncle Lin. Sect leader Hong had some misunderstandings before, so he was too embarrassed to come here directly. In addition, this junior was mistaken as a spy sent by Jadian sect, so that it would be easier to communicate with Jadian sect. So I was sent to Jadian sect to lobby. Once the words left his mouth, Li Yunjia suddenly felt that he had said the wrong thing. What was the point of mentioning a spy? Wasn't this making Xuanji sect lose face? Sure enough, Lin Yi asked with a strange expression. You are a spy from Qingyun sect? What did you say? Yijie, you sent him over? No. This disciple has never had the habit of sending spies into my brother's sect. Xianijia quickly waved his hand to deny it. Xianijia himself was confused when he heard Li Yunjia talking about a spy. Li Yunjia had no choice but to tell him about how he had seen Jin Hua suffer a loss, how he had reported it to Hong Xianlei, and how Hong Xianlei had mistaken him as a spy and locked him up for a few days. After hearing that, Lin Yi was speechless and said, It's indeed Hong Xianlei's style. This is the typical symptom of eating too many retarded pills. You are quite imaginative. Spy. Haha. Li Yunjia also had an awkward expression. He smiled awkwardly and said, No. It's a critical period now. It's normal for sect leader Hong to be more vigilant and suspicious. Marshal Uncle Lin, please don't be offended. There's nothing to be offended about. This matter has nothing to do with you. It was rare for Lin Yi to have a pleasant expression again. The more he looked at this Li Yunjia, the more he looked like Xianijia in the past. They were both passionate for the sect, but were suppressed mercilessly. Hong Xianlei did not know how to cherish such a good disciple. It could only be said that Hong Xianlei was a little too foolish. After thinking for a while, Lin Yi suddenly said, Go back and tell Hong Xianlei that it's not impossible for the Xuanji sect to return to the North Island Alliance. But there's a condition. Hong Xianlei must abdicate. He is not suitable to be the sect leader. Under his leadership, the Xuanji sect will be finished sooner or later. It's better for someone like you to be the sect leader. Let's put it this way. Hong Xianlei will abdicate, and you will be the sect leader. Then the Xuanji sect can return. Li Yunjia was shocked. He quickly straightened his back and waved his hands. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Martial uncle. I am only a foundation establishment great perfection disciple. How can I be the sect leader? Please reconsider, martial uncle. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, You are a person who wholeheartedly works for the Xuanji sect. If you don't become the sect leader, the Xuanji sect can only wait to die. Alright, send the guest out. Li Yunjia still wanted to say something, but Jin Weifeng had already pulled him up and sent him out. He could only salute with a frown and go back worriedly. After Li Yunjia left, Exanijia said worriedly, Martial uncle, if you let this little guy go back and say this, Hong Xianlei might kill him on the spot. Don't worry, Hong Xianlei won't dare to. Lin Yi, on the other hand, looked very confident. He smiled and said, If Hong Xianlei dares to kill Li Yunjia, then he will really have no way out. Didn't you hear the rumors that the 4 major sects and families have all rejected the Xuanji sect? At this time, other than the North Island Alliance, Hong Xianlei has no other choice. Under such circumstances, do you think Hong Xianlei will still make a move on Li Yunjia? Exanijia came to a sudden realization. He smiled and praised, Martial uncle, you're really thoughtful. It's Li Yunjia's fortune to meet Martial uncle. At this moment, Li Yunjia did not think that he had any fortune. After getting Lin Yi's reply, Li Yunjia was thinking about how to tactfully express it to Hong Xianlei. It was not that Li Yunjia was worried about himself, but he was afraid that Hong Xianlei would completely destroy the last hope of the Xuanji sect if he was too agitated. After returning to the Xuanji sect, Hong Xianlei asked impatiently, How was it? How did the discussion with the people from the Blue Cloud sect go? Li Yunjia had a wry smile on his face. It looked like he would never be able to get rid of the name of being a spy. Hong Xianlei didn't even ask if Li Yunjia was talking to the Shangguan clan or the Azure Cloud sect. He just asked about the conversation with the Azure Cloud sect. Clearly, he had sent someone to follow Li Yunjia. Sect Master. I met with the Blue Cloud sect's Sect Master, Exanijia, and Martial Uncle Lin Yi. They said that we can accept the Xuanji sect again, but Li Yunjia pretended that he did not hear the loophole in Hong Xianlei's words, and spoke normally. But what? Hong Xianlei was delighted. As long as the Blue Cloud sect agreed to let the Xuanji sect return to the North Island Alliance, it should not be a big problem for them to rely on the Shangguan clan. Although he was not sure what was going on, there seemed to be an unusual relationship between the Shangguan clan and the Blue Cloud sect. Chapter 5540. But what? Hurry up and tell me. Hong Xianlei was anxious, and he immediately raised his voice. This damn spy. How dare he keep me in suspense at a time like this? Li Yunjia made up his mind and closed his eyes. It's just that Grandmaster Lin Yi said that you're no longer suitable to be the Xuanji sect's sect leader. If you want to return to the North Island Alliance, you'll have to step down immediately and let me have the position of sect leader? What? Hong Xianlei was furious. He raised his palm high and was about to slap this damned spy to death. Li Yunjia immediately knelt on the ground and shouted, Sect leader. This disciple was only passing on Grandmaster Lin Yi's words. This really wasn't my intention. Be it in terms of strength or experience, I don't even have the qualifications to be an elder in waiting. How could I covet the position of sect leader? This really is the Xuanji sect's last chance. I know it's disgraceful, but for the Xuanji sect, this disciple will pass on the message even if it means death. Hong Xianlei's face was livid, but his raised palm did not fall. Li Yunjia's life or death wasn't important, but what he said was true. This was the Xuanji sect's last chance. If they really killed Li Yunjia, it would mean breaking off all relations with the Azure Sky sect. The Xuanji sect would really be at the end of their rope. You traitor! This seat isn't that stupid to believe this kind of nonsense of yours. After pondering for a while, Hong Xianlei put down his palm and snorted coldly. You're definitely trying to seek benefits for yourself by acting as a middleman, right? Become the sect leader? Even if you're a spy, the Azure Sky sect wouldn't be so crazy as to push a Foundation establishment perfected disciple like you out, right? Li Yunjia hurriedly said. Sect leader. This disciple was really just passing on Grandmaster Lin Yi's words. I didn't embellish it at all. Please understand, sect leader. Say no more. I'll get to the bottom of this personally. Hong Xianlei waved his sleeves coldly and said in a low voice. Men, take Li Yunjia away and continue to lock him up. Sect master. Li Yunjia wanted to continue arguing, but he had already been dragged out by the disciples who came in quickly. At this time, Li Yunjia only wanted to say that he should have eaten his fill first. Hong Xianlei paced back and forth a couple of steps to sort out his thoughts. Then, he walked out of the door and headed for the Azure Cloud sect's encampment. This time, the guarding disciples of the Blue Cloud sect did not stop them. They immediately brought Hong Xianlei in after hearing that he was here to look for Xianijia. They must have received instructions from Xianijia. In the living room, Lin and the other two were all there. Hong Xianlei could not help but feel a little awkward when he saw Xianijia. He casually cupped his hands as a form of greeting and went straight to the point. Sect leader Xian, I heard that your Azure Cloud sect wants our Xuanji sect to return to the North Island Alliance? That's right. After all, the three major sects of the North Island are a family. Since it's a win-win situation, we should settle it as soon as possible. Alright, it's settled. Lin glanced at Hong Xianlei coldly. He was not going to pay attention to him at all. This guy must have eaten too many moronic pills. He made it seem like the Azure Cloud sect was begging Xuanji sect to return. Was he really alright with his brain? Xianijia was a little annoyed. How nice was Li Yunjia's attitude before? That was how the three major sects of the North Island should behave when they were united. What was wrong with Hong Xianlei? Jin Weifeng was a young man after all. He was a little annoyed at once. What do you mean it's settled? Who are you? Do you have the right to speak here? Get out of here. Hong Xianlei also felt that he had gone too far. However, after he saw Xianijia, he forgot all the words he had thought of previously. Those words came out of his mouth without any thought. It was too late to regret now. Even if he wanted to change his words, he could not bring himself to do so. Weifeng, be polite to the sect leader. Send him out properly. Xianijia did not want to talk nonsense with Hong Xianlei. He picked up his teacup and said calmly. Hong Xianlei's face turned green and red. Serve tea to send the guest off again? Can't you be a little more creative? Can't you serve tea to keep the guest? Since Xianijia had said so, it was impossible for Hong Xianlei to stay. However, the Blue Cloud sect was Xuanji sect's last chance of survival. Hong Xianlei did not dare to give up just like that. Therefore, he was in a dilemma. He did not know what to do. Right at this moment, another disciple came in and reported, Great Martial Uncle, Sect Master Xian, Sect Elder Jin, the Shangguan clan's supreme elder and clan chief have come to visit Great Martial Uncle. Can you bring them here? Hong Xianlei was shocked. The Shangguan clan's supreme elder and family leader. Someone actually came to report to them? Shouldn't they just open the door and let everyone go to the door to welcome them? Lin waved his hand casually and said, Bring them in. The disciple replied. Then he quickly ran out. After being interrupted by the disciple, no one paid any attention to Hong Xianlei. He didn't want to miss the chance to meet the Shangguan clan's supreme elder, so he just stood there quietly. After a short while, Shangguan Feixing and Shangguan Qingyan arrived together. As soon as they entered the door, Hong Xianlei rushed out and greeted them. Junior Hong Xianlei of Xuanji sect greets the supreme elder and family leader of Shangguan. Shangguan Feixing did not know Hong Xianlei at first. Therefore, when Hong Xianlei came out to greet them, he wanted to help him. After all, he was from the Blue Cloud sect. Shangguan Feixing did not dare to put on airs in front of them. However, after hearing Hong Xianlei's name from Xuanji sect, he immediately ignored Hong Xianlei and walked over. Shangguan Qingyan followed suit, completely treating Hong Xianlei as heir. Martial granduncle. This junior has taken the liberty to come here to ask some questions. I'm really sorry to disturb your peaceful cultivation. After Shangguan Feixing walked past Hong Xianlei, He immediately put on a smiling face and bowed respectfully to Lin Yi. Lin Yi waved his hand lightly and said, "You are too polite. Just tell me if you have any questions." Actually, Lin Yi did not need Shengguan Feishing to say it. Lin Yi must have completed the mental cultivation technique. Shengguan Feishing and the others were a little confused. Otherwise, Shengguan Feishing would not have come to look for Lin Yi directly. "Granduncle, there are some miscellaneous people. Can we clear them out first?" Shengguan Feishing knew that Hong Xianlei did not get along with the Blue Cloud sect. Naturally, he would not show any mercy. Moreover, the Xuanji sect was a sect that had betrayed the Shengguan clan. It would be strange if Shengguan Feishing would treat him nicely. Chapter 5541. Genius 1 second. Remember love go away? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. There's definitely something wrong with this. What exactly went wrong? Hong Xianlei didn't dare to offend Shengguan Feishing. Although he didn't understand, he could only smile and leave dejectedly. After leaving the Azure Cloud sect, Hong Xianlei felt that something was wrong. He disguised himself in a corner and walked toward the lobby of an inn. There was no better place than this to gather information. This time, Hong Xianlei was smart for once. He pretended to be a nobody, which made it much easier for him to gather information. Under his intentional guidance, many cultivators who made a living would bring out the information they knew as a topic of conversation. The more information he gathered, the more frightened Hong Xianlei became. The Qingquan sect suffered a loss at the hands of the Shengguan clan? The Shengguan clan wasn't afraid of the Qingquan sect? The Azure Cloud sect forcefully occupied the Five Elements sect's stall, and the Shengguan clan was behind it? Hong Xianlei knew some of it, but he didn't know some of it. However, there was one thing he was sure of. The Shengguan clan was no longer the weakest of the four great clans. The Shengguan clan would most likely rise in the immemorial grand meeting this time. The only thing Hong Xianlei was concerned about was why the supreme elder and family master of the Shengguan clan were so polite and respectful to Lin Yi. Could it be that Lin Yi was really the grand martial uncle of the Azure Cloud sect? I think I was wrong. I felt that something was wrong. The Shengguan clan changed their attitude toward the Xuanji sect because of the Azure Cloud sect, right? Hong Xianlei murmured to himself. He realized that Shengguan Qingyun had a falling out with him because Hong Xianlei had said bad things about the Azure Cloud sect and wanted the Shengguan clan to kick the Azure Cloud sect out of the sect. The Azure Cloud sect was the key to returning to the sect. Hong Xianlei returned to the Profound Secrets sect in a daze. The news that he had just obtained had completely overturned Hong Xianlei's views. Although Hong Xianlei was a little obstinate and self-opinionated, it was undeniable that he still hoped that the Profound Secrets sect could rise to prominence. Otherwise, there would be no need for him to run around and rely on others all day long. He could just focus on being the sect master of the Profound Secrets sect. Bring Li Yunjia here. Hong Xianlei sat on a chair and waved his hand at his follower listlessly. For the sake of the Profound Secrets sect, it seemed like he had no choice but to agree to Lin Yi's conditions. Li Yunjia came over very quickly. Hong Xianlei said solemnly, "There's no need for those useless formalities. I won't say anything unnecessary. For the sake of the Profound Secrets sect, I can agree to the Blue Cloud sect's conditions and give you the position of sect master. Now, you can come with me to the Blue Cloud sect." Sect master? Li Yunjia was stunned for a moment. He hurriedly opened his mouth to refuse, but Hong Xianlei waved his hand to stop him from saying anything and walked out first. This kind of important matter should have been discussed with the other elders, but Hong Xianlei's heart was filled with a sense of urgency, so he could only drag Li Yunjia to the Azure Cloud sect first. Moreover, Hong Xianlei had always been a man of his word in the Profound Secrets sect. Li Yunjia didn't know what had happened. He had only been locked up for a short while, so why did Hong Xianlei's attitude take a 180-degree turn? However, Hong Xianlei didn't say anything, so Li Yunjia didn't dare to ask. He could only quickly follow Hong Xianlei to the Azure Cloud sect. At this moment, Shengguan Feishing and Shengguan Qingyun had just finished consulting Hong Xianlei on their mental cultivation techniques, so there was no need to hide from him. After Hong Xianlei brought Li Yunjia in, he didn't dare to act rashly. He greeted each and every one of them respectfully, then said carefully, "Seniors, the Profound Secrets sect would like to return to the North Island Alliance and rely on the Shangguan clan again. I wonder if you can accept the Profound Secrets sect." Lenny said indifferently, "You know the conditions, right? Are there any problems?" Hong Xianlei secretly clenched his teeth, but said without any hesitation, "I can abdicate my position and let Li Yunjia take over as the sect master of the Profound Secrets sect. Then, I will take on the position of the Profound Secrets sect's supreme elder. What do you think, Martial Granduncle Lin?" When the Profound Secrets sect was still one of the 10 minor sects, they had a nascent soul supreme elder. However, after the supreme elder died in an accident, the Profound Secrets sect fell out of the 10 minor sects, and the position of supreme elder had always been vacant. Hong Xianlei didn't think it would be a bad thing if he became the supreme elder. Lenny sneered, "You want to become the supreme elder? Then continue to criticize us behind our backs? What's the point of that?" Martial Granduncle Lin then, "What do you think we should do?" Hong Xuanlei's attitude was rather humble, and he looked very sincere. Lenny thought for a moment, then said indifferently, "How about this? You're the strongest person in the Profound Secrets sect right now. So be it, Supreme Elder. However, it's just an honorary Supreme Elder. Even though your status is high, you can't interfere with the Profound Secrets sect's matters." "No problem," Hong Xianlei nodded in agreement. "As long as the Profound Secrets sect can return to the North Island Alliance, I'm willing to become an ordinary disciple of the Profound Secrets sect, let alone an honorable status like the honorary Supreme Elder." What he said was true. Hong Xianlei was already prepared to be pushed to the bottom when he came. He only proposed to become the Supreme Elder as a last resort. He never thought that he would succeed. Being an honorary Supreme Elder was more than enough for him now. Exionejia had always wanted the Profound Secrets sect to return, so that the 3 major sects of the North Island could reunite. Now that his wish had finally been fulfilled, he had a gratified expression on his face. Lenny looked at Exionejia and smirked. He then said, "If that's the case, let's see if there are any extra spots in the 10 minor sects in the archaic meeting this time. If there are, we'll let the Profound Secrets sect return to the 10 minor sects. If there aren't, we'll talk about it next time. Even if there are, don't think about rising to the top in a single step. I'm guessing you'll only get the last spot in the 10 minor sects." "Thank you, Grandmaster Lin." Hong Xianlei was overjoyed when he heard that. Regardless of whether Lenny really had the ability or not, at least the Profound Secrets sect could be stabilized for the time being. Hong Xianlei turned around and saw that Li Yunjia was still in a daze. He immediately tugged on his sleeve and reminded him in a low voice, "Hurry up and thank Grandmaster Lin." Hong Xianlei no longer felt any hatred or jealousy toward this guy, who had stolen his position as the sect leader. Instead, he was rather grateful. If the Profound Secrets sect could return to the 10 minor sects, all grudges would no longer matter. Li Yunjia felt like he had just woken up from a dream. He quickly bowed to thank Lin Yi. Of course, Exionejia was also there. He dared not neglect either of the 2 big shots of the Shangguan clan. Chapter 5542. Genius 1 Second. Remember love? Go. Small. To provide you with exciting novels to read. Hong Xianlei was greatly shocked. He thought he had taken the relationship between the Azure Cloud sect and the Shangguan clan very seriously, but now he realized that he had underestimated it. However, was it possible for the Azure Cloud sect to replace the Qingquan sect? Shangguan Qingyan saw Hong Xianlei's confused expression, so he said with a smile, "You might not know this, but apart from the early nascent soul realm cultivator, the son of the Qingquan sect leader, who was killed by Martial Granduncle Lin, a late nascent soul realm cultivator, and a mid-nascent soul realm cultivator, who came to our Shangguan clan to cause trouble, were also killed by Martial Granduncle Lin. In terms of strength, the Qingquan sect might not even be stronger than our Shangguan clan, let alone the Azure Cloud sect with Martial Granduncle Lin. Martial Granduncle Lin is that powerful." Hong Xuanlei's expression changed drastically. Only now did he realize how stupid his previous actions were. If Xianijia had returned to the North Island Alliance right away, the Xuanji sect's status would be completely different now. Fortunately, after all the twists and turns, the Xuanji sect had finally returned. Although Hong Xuanlei's status had plummeted, as long as the Xuanji sect could rise again, Hong Xuanlei's status as the honorary supreme elder would naturally rise as well. Lin said with a calm smile. All right, let's not talk about this here. The matter of the Xuanji sect's return has come to an end. Now, all of you go back and prepare yourselves. The archaic convention is about to begin, so let's have a good time during it. Love Gope small say netku. Everyone responded loudly, then stood up and bid farewell to each other. They went back to prepare for the archaic convention. Before the immemorial grand meeting had even started, the original situation had already quietly undergone a huge change. Those sects and families were not stupid. More or less had already sensed it, but most likely no one would believe that the hand that stirred up the storm was actually Qing Yin's sect. At most, they guessed that something had happened to the Shangguan clan, which caused their strength to skyrocket, and they were now able to challenge the Qingkuan sect. The next day was the official opening of the Archean Assembly. The Archean Alliance was the collective name of the 4 great sects and families, and they were in charge of all matters related to the assembly. According to the rules, the Yuanying stage great perfection of the 4 major sects and families will attend on that day, but the Qingkuan sect has always come to participate in the tribulation. Afraid of the power of the Qingkuan sect, no one will say anything. After all, the tribulation is also a half-step great perfection. 1 foot has already stepped into the level of great perfection. This year was a little different. Shangguan Feixing, the peak of the nascent soul realm, did not come. Instead, it was Shangguan Qingyan, the current clan master, who attended the opening ceremony. The Qingkuan sect's tribulation transcendence did not say anything, but the 5 elements sect's Ma Zedong could not help but jump out. Shangguan Qingyan, has your old man died? Today was such an important day, yet he didn't show his face. Didn't he know that the 4 great perfected nascent soul cultivators were coming? Or could it be that your Shangguan clan is ready to give up one of the 4 big clans? Ma Zedong also held a grudge against the Shangguan clan because the Green Cloud sect had robbed the 5 elements sect's stall. So he started to mock them viciously. From Ma Zedong's point of view, although Lin Yi had a hold on Master Chen's weakness, if it wasn't for the Shangguan clan, how would the Green Cloud sect dare to go against the 5 elements sect? He had been wanting to cause trouble for the Shangguan clan for a long time. Now that he had the chance, he certainly wouldn't let it go easily. Shangguan Qingyan was not anxious or angry. He only smiled and said, Sect Master Ma, do you think that perfected cultivator Du Nan of the Qingkuan sect has also died? Ma Zedong was suddenly speechless. He had always been used to perfected cultivator Du Nan attending the assembly. Who would remember that perfected cultivator Du Nan also didn't come? However, Ma Zedong was not easy to deal with. He immediately sneered and said, Old man, can you compare to perfected cultivator Du Nan? Perfected cultivator Du Nan is the number 1 cultivator in the nascent soul realm. In the entire ancient underworld, perfected cultivator Du Nan is the only one who has the chance to reach the legendary mysterious ascension stage. It's understandable that he didn't come in seclusion. Furthermore, perfected cultivator Du Nan is also half a step to the peak of the nascent soul realm. Do you think you can compare to perfected cultivator Du Nan? Perfected cultivator Du Nan glanced at Ma Zedong coldly, but didn't say anything. Shangguan Qingyan chuckled and said, I really can't say whether I can compare to him or not. However, from what you said, could it be that the 5 elements sect has already surrendered to the Qingkuan sect? Ma Zedong's face suddenly turned red. Shangguan Qingyan's words were really mean. Everyone in the ancient underworld knew that the 5 elements sect's biggest competitor was the Qingkuan sect. Both sides had never been on good terms. However, Ma Zedong's words just now sounded like he was flattering the Qingkuan sect. Speaking of which, he had really embarrassed the 5 elements sect. Originally, Ma Zedong wanted to say a few good words, and pull the Qingquan sect over as an ally. Who knew that perfected cultivator, Dunan wouldn't say anything at all. Ma Zedong could only say angrily, "What nonsense are you talking about? I'm just stating the facts and stating the facts. Perfected cultivator Du Nan is half a step to the peak of the peak. So it's not a problem to treat him as a peak, isn't it? Oh, if you must say so, then so be it." Shangguan Qingyun shrugged indifferently, and then said, "However, even half a step to the peak of the peak can participate. Why can't I participate? Ma Zedong, even if you want to be a flatterer, you can't be so blatant. Don't you want the 5 elements sex face? Nonsense. You are the one who is a flatterer." Ma Zedong was so angry that she was about to go crazy. She pointed at Shangguan Qingyun and shouted, "He is half a step to the peak of the peak of the peak. Who do you think you are, Shangguan Qingyun? You are only in the late nascent soul realm, and you dare to act like a boss? Who told you that I am in the late nascent soul realm?" Shangguan Qingyun looked at Ma Zedong sarcastically, but he felt indescribably refreshed. The feeling of acting cool was really good. "Do you need anyone to tell you? Everyone in the ancient underworld knows how strong you are." Ma Zedong didn't feel that there was anything wrong with it, and still replied unyieldingly. Shangguan Qingyun didn't say much, and just looked at Ma Zedong with a smile. Then, he activated his mental cultivation method, and revealed the aura of the peak of the nascent soul realm. Ma Zedong was instantly dumbfounded. Shangguan Qingyun was already in the peak of the nascent soul realm? According to the information, when Shangguan Qingyun came to the ruins town, he was still in the late nascent soul realm. Moreover, Shangguan Qingyun had been stuck in the late nascent soul realm for many years. How could he break through so quickly? Moreover, he broke through 2 small levels consecutively. Chapter 55-43. A genius in a second. Remember to go? To provide you with wonderful novels to read. The Supreme Elder of Awakening Heaven's faction, who had been silent, also looked at Shangguan Qingyun in surprise. His eyes flickered a few times, then he turned back and remained silent. Nobody knew what he was thinking. Sect leader Ma, this time, it shouldn't be 1 clear, but 2 clear, 3 clear and 3 clear, right? Any more questions? Shangguan Qingyun looked at Ma Zedong mockingly, and continued to show his nascent soul realm great perfection, aura to her without reservation. Ma Zedong's face turned green and red, and she felt wronged. In the end, she could only smile and say, "Congratulations, Shangguan family leader. Your strength has improved by leaps and bounds. Alright, since everyone is here, let's get ready to start." Since Ma Zedong admitted defeat, Shangguan Qingyun didn't have the intention to continue. After withdrawing his aura, he nodded and said, "Let's discuss the rules of this Archean convention." Sage Du Jie looked at Shangguan Qingyun with a gloomy face. Originally, these words were said by Qingquan sect, or more accurately, by Du Jie himself. Now that Shangguan Qingyun had beaten him to it, it was inevitable that Du Jie was a little unhappy. However, the Shangguan family already had 2 nascent soul realm great perfection cultivators, so Du Jie could only endure it for the time being. As for the rules, I think we should use the previous ones. Du Jie suppressed the unhappiness in his heart, and interrupted Shangguan Qingyun's words. "In the past, we have always used the comprehensive scoring system. It's considered a more mature system. This year there's no need to change it. At most, we just need to change the items of the competition slightly." Sage Du Jie, you're right. Our 5 elements sect has the same intention. Ma Zedong had just suffered a small loss at Shangguan Qingyun's hands and lost face. Now of course, she had to stand on Du Jie's side to suppress the Shangguan family. Hence she immediately agreed. The Supreme Elder of Awakening Heaven's faction closed his eyes slightly, and sat motionless on the chair. He nodded slightly and said, "Let's do it this way." Shangguan Qingyun said indifferently, "Alright, let's move on to the next topic." Sage Du Jie almost vomited blood. Why is it that Shangguan Qingyun is the one leading the meeting again? Didn't they say that this guy never had a mind of his own? As a matter of fact, Shangguan Qingyun was someone who had no opinions of his own, even though he was already at the perfected nascent soul realm. Hence, As long as the opinions of the Shangguan clan and Blue Cloud sect didn't harm the interests of the Shangguan clan and Blue Cloud sect, Lin Yi would let them be. Anyway, with Lin Yi's strength, there shouldn't be any problems under normal circumstances. Shangguan family head. Before we move on to the next topic, shouldn't we first calculate the overall basis? Oh, by the way, it's your first time attending this meeting, so it's normal that you don't know much about it. Du Jie didn't say anything, but Ma Zedong jumped out again and sneered vaguely. Shangguan Qingyan did not mind. He chuckled and said, "Sure, then you shall do it." Ma Zedong almost flipped the table on the spot. "What the fuck do you mean you'll do it? Am I a little brother that you can order around?" The Supreme Elder of the Heaven Awakening faction opened his eyes, glanced at Shangguan Qingyan, and said with a smile, "Clan head Shangguan. The basic points are submitted by the various clans themselves. If anyone suspects it, they can check it out. If there are any false reports, they will be disqualified from participating in the immemorial meeting. Therefore, normally no one would dare to cheat. Although it's your first time attending this meeting, you should have already prepared the basis points beforehand, right?" "Oh, if that's the case, could it be this?" Shangguan Qingyan patted his forehead lightly. Then he took out a piece of paper from his bosom. On it was a list of the specific number of nascent soul realm and golden core realm cultivators in the Shangguan clan. The Supreme Elder of the Heaven Awakening faction took a look and nodded. "This is it. The perfected nascent soul realm is 10 basis points. The late nascent soul realm is 9 points. And so on until the late golden core realm is 1 point. Those below the late golden core realm are not counted. It's quite convenient to calculate it this way. I've never paid attention to it before. It turns out that the number of people is to calculate the basis points." Haha. Shangguan Qingyan laughed and turned to Ma Zedong. "Then, you don't have to do this. Everyone can do it themselves." Ma Zedong rolled up his sleeves and was ready to turn hostile. "What does this mean? You can come and go at my beck and call? I'll beat you to death." The Supreme Elder of the Enlightening Heavens faction coughed lightly and interrupted Ma Zedong's anger in a timely manner. "After the basic points are out, all the sects will vote according to this basic points to determine the qualification of each sect to challenge, and then the competition will begin. In the end, the sect with the highest total points wins. Shangguan clan head should be familiar with this, right?" "Thank you, Elder Qi, for your explanation. I know the rules behind." Shangguan Qingyan nodded with a smile and thanked the Supreme Elder of the Heaven Awakening faction. Sage Crossing Calamity snorted coldly. "All right, the time to disseminate knowledge to the newcomers ends here. The application for the basis points can be carried out first. Let's discuss the competition first. After all the sects have voted, we can start the challenge based on the qualification." Ma Zedong took a deep breath and sneered at Shangguan Qingyan. "Shangguan clan head, do you have any ideas about the competition? Ideas? And let me think." Shangguan Qingyan thought for a while with a serious expression. Then he smiled and said, "Sect head Ma, why don't you give me a few ideas first? Let me consider and see if there's anything suitable. If there's anything suitable, I'll agree. If not, you can think about it again." "Damn it. This is too much. Why should I think of ideas for you to choose and let you decide?" Ma Zedong really jumped up and was ready to take action this time. Sage Crossing Calamity looked on coldly. He was eager for the Five Elements sect to have a conflict with the Shangguan clan. It would be best if both sides suffered heavy losses. That would be advantageous to the Qingkuan sect. "Sect head Ma, you're so excited. Did you think of a good idea? Why don't you tell me?" Shangguan Qingyan seemed to not feel Ma Zedong's anger at all. He still looked calm. "You want to hear it? No problem. Come here and I'll tell you. Then, you'll know why flowers are so red." Ma Zedong frowned and waved at Shangguan Qingyan while gnashing his teeth. Chapter 5544. Genius 1 second. Remember to go away? To provide you with wonderful novels to read. Sage Du Jie's face turned black. He turned his head and ignored Shangguan Qingyan, but he was cursing in his heart. "I've never heard of Shangguan Qingyan being such a person. If I knew, I would have killed him long ago. Ma Zedong was about to go crazy. Shangguan Qingyun's whisper couldn't be hidden from the ears of the nascent soul realm cultivators at the peak nascent soul realm. If Shangguan Qingyun was still at the late nascent soul realm, Ma Zedong would have killed him 18 times. Qi Deny came out again to smooth things over. Alright, today is the opening day of the Archean Grand Meeting. Let's not waste any more time. Let's decide on the competition items first. What I mean is to choose a few of the previous events as the opening competition, and then think of a few new events to add to it. What do you think? Of course, if you find it troublesome and want to completely follow the previous items, I have no opinion. Shangguan Qingyun was the first to express his opinion. What Elder Qi said is very reasonable. I completely agree. Let's do it this way. Sage Du Jie secretly rolled his eyes. What did Qi Deny say? You completely agree? That's all nonsense, okay? Do you agree to keep a few old items and choose a few new ones? Or completely copy the previous items? Actually, Shangguan Qingyun completely agreed with Qi Deny. No matter what, he didn't care. Anyway, the final plan would only be fully implemented after Green Cloud Sect advanced. The initial projects only involved the 10 Academies qualification and the 10 Academies competition. The Green Cloud Sect directly obtained the qualification of the 10 Academies, so there was no need for them to participate in these projects. Hence, Shangguan Qingyun really didn't care at all. We Qingkuan Sect feel that it's better to keep some of the original items and add some new ones. Sage Du Jie didn't want to bother with Shangguan Qingyun, so he directly discussed with Qi Deny. Qi Deny nodded. He originally had this intention. Since Sage Du Jie also thought so, it was naturally for the best. Ma Zedong snorted and said, 5 Elements Sect also agrees. Shangguan Qingyun said with a look of concern. Sect leader Ma, are you feeling very uncomfortable? You're in so much pain. Don't take medicine so casually in the future. You're the one who's taking medicine. Ma Zedong finally couldn't take it anymore. She slammed the table and roared. Qi Dalai quickly tried to smooth things over. We're all the top figures of the immemorial underworld. Let's talk less. Time is of the essence. Let's hurry up and discuss the important matters. Shangguan Qingyun shrugged his shoulders innocently and said, This sect master Ma is really hot-tempered. Perhaps it's not that he took too much medicine, but that he didn't? None of you stop me. I'm going to kill him today. Ma Zedong pushed away Qi Deny's outstretched arm. They were all at the peak of Yuanying realm. Who wouldn't have a temper? However, Shangguan Qingyun only said leisurely, My father is in secluded cultivation in the Shangguan clan's territory. Do you want to meet him? Ma Zedong's body trembled slightly. Shangguan Feixing was an experienced cultivator at the peak of the nascent soul realm. Even if he was not as strong as the strongest cultivator in the nascent soul realm, Reverend Du Nan, he was still much stronger than Ma Zedong, a cultivator at the peak of the nascent soul realm from the 5 Elements Sect. Together with Shangguan Qingyun, the newly ascended nascent soul great perfection, the Shangguan clan was no longer easy to deal with. I told you not to stop me. You still won't let go. Ma Zedong grabbed Qi Deny's arm and roared loudly. After shaking him a few times, she said, Okay, I Ma Zedong will give you face. I'll let it go today, but I'll definitely settle this score in the future. Qi Deny really wanted to ask, Can you let go of my arm first? I really didn't want to stop you. Sage Du Jie coughed lightly. He knew that Ma Zedong wasn't an idiot, and wouldn't really challenge the Shangguan clan alone at this time. So he said expressionlessly, Let's discuss which projects to keep and which projects to add. That's right. Let's settle the business first. Qi Deny echoed. Shangguan Qingyun was even more indifferent. So, the meeting finally returned to the main topic. Although it was a discussion, it wasn't much of a discussion. Sage Du Jie and Qi Deny made some suggestions, and Shangguan Qingyun agreed to all of them. Ma Zedong snorted a few times and didn't object. So the matter was decided. Okay, since it's decided, I'll take my leave first. Shangguan Qingyun stood up easily, cupped his hands at the other 3, and turned to leave. After Shangguan Qingyun left, Ma Zedong immediately shouted angrily, This is too much. How dare he Shangguan Qingyun be so arrogant? Does he think that with 2 nascent soul great perfection cultivators, he can be above all 4 of us? Sage Dujia Elder Qi, how can you tolerate this? Qi Denai laughed and said, Shangguan clan master doesn't usually care about things, so his words may be a little thoughtless, but he might not be really arrogant. Sect Master Ma, you don't have to worry too much. I still have some things to do today, so I'll take my leave first. The Archean Grand Meeting is about to begin, see you later. After saying that, Qi Denai cupped his hands at the 2, turned around, and left, leaving Ma Zayden rolling his eyes behind him. Now only Sage Dujia was left. Ma Zayden rolled his eyes and said in a low voice, Daoist Dujia, I Ma Zayden, am not a person who likes to stir up trouble, but the Shangguan clan is really too arrogant now. I've heard about the unhappiness between your Qingkuan sect and the Shangguan clan. How about it, why don't we join forces? It will be difficult for either of us to deal with the 2 nascent soul great perfection cultivators of the Shangguan clan, right? Dujia looked at Ma Zayden indifferently and said, Forget it, just pretend I never heard about this. Ma Zayden was slightly startled. He originally thought that Dujia would definitely agree if he proposed to join forces, but he didn't expect this guy to reject him so directly. Daoist Dujia, what do you mean? Is the dignified Qingkuan sect going to admit defeat? Are you planning to let the Shangguan clan climb above your heads? Ma Zaydan wasn't willing to accept this, so he even tried to provoke them. Ha ha ha. Ma Zaydan was unwilling to accept this, so he even tried to provoke them. Dujia chuckled and said, Sect leader Ma, although our 2 sects have never been on good terms, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that we are old enemies. However, I still want to remind you not to cause too much trouble. Otherwise, I'm afraid that I won't be able to see your 5 elements sect in the next Archaic Grand Meeting. Chapter 55-45. That's all I have to say. You can figure out the details yourself. I won't say more. Dujia said calmly. He cupped his hands casually, bid farewell and left. Hey, make it clear. Don't leave the other half. Ma Zayden shouted twice, but Dujia didn't seem to care about her. He continued to walk out. The Qingkuan sect and the 5 elemental sect were already in a state of competition. The reason why Dujia was willing to warn them was because they had a common enemy. However, if Dujia and Ma Zayden wanted to cause trouble for the Shangguan clan, Dujia would never agree to it. At least, he had to figure out what kind of strength Lin Yi had. After Shangguan Qingyin left, he went to report to Lin Yi. After briefly introducing the contents of the discussion, Shangguan Qingyin asked with a smile, Marshal Uncle Lin, do you have any 10 youngsters or 10 youngsters candidates that you want to take care of? If you do, you can inform them of the events that have been decided, so that they can be prepared. At least, they can get a good result in the competition. Lin Yi nodded and said, Thank you. Speaking of which, besides the 3 sects in the North Island, there should be a few other sects and families in the Shangguan clan. Is there anyone who wants to enter the 10 youngsters? Shangguan Qingyin shook his head quickly and said, There are others, but their strength is very low. They might not even have a chance to enter the 10 youngsters. It's unlikely for them to enter the 10 youngsters. Marshal Uncle Lin, you don't have to worry. We will inform them ourselves. Of course, if there's a chance during the competition, I hope you can help them. No problem. We'll decide according to the situation. Go and inform them that they are ready. Lin Yi nodded and let Shangguan Qingyin go. Shangguan Qingyin immediately stood up and left. He had to go back and discuss with Shangguan Feisheng to see if there was a need to help his own family or sect. Lin Yi sent Shangguan Qingyin off, which made Shangguan Qingyin feel a little flattered. However, in reality, Lin Yi was just passing by. Since he was going out anyway, it didn't matter if he sent Shangguan Qingyin off. The 2 of them parted ways at the entrance. Lin Yi went straight to the Thousand Blades sect. The Thousand Blades sect was probably the only one that needed special attention. As for the others, whether it was the Leaf Spirit sect or the Chu clan, there was no need for Lin Yi to worry about them. The Leaf Spirit sect was one of the 10 small sects, and with the Chu clan's current strength, it would be very easy for them to become one of the 10 small sects. Only the Thousand Blades sect was in a difficult situation right now. However, Linny didn't expect that the Thousand Blades sect's situation was much more miserable than he had imagined. When Linny arrived at the Thousand Blades sect's encampment, there was no one at the entrance. After scanning the entire encampment with his divine senses, he found that apart from Ling Tianyu, there was only the crippled invincible primordial spirit. This is too miserable. Linny was speechless. From the messy state of the courtyard, it could be seen that the entire Thousand Blades sect might really only have these two people left. Otherwise, it would be impossible for no one to clean up the place. Previously, Linny didn't pay much attention to Ling Tianyu. After all, Linny could handle the trouble of the Qingquan sect by himself. The Qingquan sect basically wouldn't come looking for Ling Tianyu. However, Ling Tianyu didn't know about these things. After returning that day, Ling Tianyu was almost in a state of waiting for death. He didn't go out even once. In Ling Tianyu's view, he completely implicated Lin Yi and Duanmuyu. However, his strength was low, and he couldn't help much. Apart from waiting for death, there was really nothing he could do. Invincible primordial spirit was also carried here. After Ling Tianyu came back, he told Invincible primordial spirit what had happened. After listening to the story, Invincible primordial spirit, who was originally full of arrogance, just sighed softly. This is fate. Heaven's in Thousand Blades. Then he didn't speak anymore. When Linny came, the father and son were completely lifeless. When Ling Tianyu saw Lin Yi, he was a little surprised, and instead became a little angry. Brother Lin, why are you here? How have you been recently? Ling Tianyu actually wanted to ask why Lin Yi looked like nothing had happened to him. After all, the one Lin Yi killed was the son of the Qingquan sect master. I'm fine. What about you? Why do you look like a ghost? Lin Yi looked at Ling Tianyu strangely, and then asked, what happened to your Thousand Blades faction? Where did everyone go? The Thousand Blades faction was disbanded. Ling Tianyu sighed, and then asked, Brother Lin, it's great that you are fine. Didn't the Qingquan sect come to make trouble for you? They came, but they only sent 2 weak chickens. They were completely sent to my door. I sent them away. Lin Yi said lightly, but his eyes fell on Invincible primordial spirit, who was lying on the bed. Ling Tianyu asked curiously, why did the Qingquan sect send 2 weak chickens? Didn't they recognize your strength after the death of their sect master's son? Indeed, they didn't recognize my strength. Lin Yi nodded as if it was a matter of course. They actually thought that they could defeat me by sending a late nascent soul stage and a middle nascent soul stage weakling. Don't you think it's ridiculous? Ling Tianyu was speechless. He didn't know whether the Qingquan sect was ridiculous or not, but he felt that he was ridiculous. He actually naively thought that they were really 2 weak chickens, 2 nascent soul stage experts, one at the late nascent soul stage, and the other at the middle nascent soul stage. How could this kind of strength be considered weak chickens? Brother Lin, you forget it, let's not talk about it. Ling Tianyu shook his head. He felt that he had nothing to talk about with an abnormal person like Lin Yi. He could only change the topic and ask, did the Qingquan sect not make any follow-up moves after you sent the 2 nascent soul stage experts back? I didn't send them back, I directly killed them. The Qingquan sect suffered such a big loss, so they probably don't have the guts to cause trouble for me for a while. Unless they can figure out all the details about me, they won't easily make a move. Lin Yi smiled indifferently. He had almost figured out the thoughts of the Qingquan sect. As for his own strength, Lin Yi didn't want to talk too much, so he changed the topic and asked, just now, you said that the Thousand Blades sect was disbanded. What exactly happened? Ling Tianyu shook his head with a bitter smile. The Thousand Blades sect has already declined. The people below heard that I offended the Qingquan sect and the Invincible Patriarch, so they all quietly left the sect. The people's hearts were scattered, so the sect was also disbanded. Lin Yi glanced at the silent Invincible Primordial Era and said meaningfully, some people have the same moral character as the Qingquan sect. They wanted to show off without figuring out their opponent's strength, but in the end, they kicked an iron plate. It's too late to regret now, right? Chapter 5546. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go? Talk. Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Invincible Patriarch, please speak less. Ling Tianyu hurriedly stopped him. Primordial Invincible was already in such a state, and his words were somewhat unclear. Whether Lin Yi was bragging or not, Primordial Invincible was definitely not Lin Yi's opponent. Moreover, Ling Tianyu had always felt that he owed Lin Yi too much, and he did not want Primordial Invincible to offend Lin Yi. However, Lin Yi was not so narrow-minded. After listening to Primordial Invincible's words, he just chuckled twice. It's up to you whether you believe it or not. I don't need to say so much to you. Lin Yi said indifferently. Even if Primordial Invincible was at his peak, Lin Yi would not take him seriously, let alone Primordial Invincible in his current state. Ling Tianyu hurriedly said, Brother Lin, please don't be offended. Invincible Patriarch did not know the situation, so he questioned Brother Lin. Lin Yi pointed at Ling Tianyu and said to Primordial Invincible, Fortunately, you have such a good grand disciple. Otherwise I would not have bothered to talk to you. Can you still move your hands? If you can, then give me your hands. What do you want? Primordial Invincible was not worried that Lin Yi would harm him. Since he was already in such a state, Lin Yi probably would not have such thoughts. However, Primordial Invincible was very curious about what Lin Yi wanted to do. You can't even move your hands? Forget it. Lin Yi said impatiently, and directly reached out to grab Primordial Invincible's wrist. Love Gope small say net co Primordial Invincible subconsciously wanted to struggle, but in his current state, everything was in vain. However, the next moment, Primordial Invincible was completely shocked. An incomparably pure and powerful spiritual power came from his wrist, and instantly poured into the broken meridians, and then began to rapidly repair them. How was this possible? Even a level 5 recover pill would not have such a quick effect. Primordial Invincible knew that the hidden force left by Reverend Du Nan was eroding his meridians. Otherwise, with the Thousand Blades faction's resources, they would have been able to find recover pills, and Primordial Invincible would not have been crippled on the bed like that. But Lin Yi's pure chi was able to get rid of the destructive energy master Du Nan left behind, and repair the damaged meridians. To Primordial Invincible, it was a miracle. A while later, Undefeated was still in shock, and Lin Yi had already retracted his hand. He clapped his hands twice and said faintly, All right. Right now, the Thousand Blades sect still has a nascent soul great circle cultivator, who has the qualifications to be one of the 10 small ones. Go register yourself first, then work hard at the Primeval Grand Meeting. I reckon that entering the 10 small ones won't be too big of a problem. When the time comes, there's no need to take back those who left. It's done. Ling Tianyu had a look of disbelief on his face. He knew how miraculous Lin Yi was, but he had never imagined that Lin Yi could be this miraculous. A cultivator at the peak of the nascent soul realm, who was crippled, was actually cured in such a short time? With Lin Yi's ability, was he going to defy the heavens? Ling Tianyu did not doubt whether Invincible Primeval had really been cured or not. Because Invincible Primeval was still in shock, he did not restrain his aura. In order to cooperate with Lin Yi's genuine chi, Invincible Primeval subconsciously operated his own mental cultivation method, and the aura of the peak of the Yuanying stage was naturally revealed. Love Gope small say Net Kaleni shrugged his shoulders and said, It's just some minor injuries, nothing serious. After you've signed up, go to the Shangguan clan and pay your respects. Tell them that I asked you to go, and the Shangguan clan will arrange everything for you. Okay, I understand. Ling Tianyu did not know what to say, or how to react for a while. It was said that great kindness cannot be thanked with words. Now Ling Tianyu really understood the meaning of this sentence. With the kindness that Lin Yi had shown to the Thousand Blades faction, how could it be resolved with just a word of thanks? Lin Yi waved his hand, and did not say anything more. Then he turned around and left. Invincible Primeval was still in a daze. Happiness came too suddenly, An invincible primeval felt like it was a dream. He was afraid that if he was dazed for a moment, he would find that it was all fake. Ling Tianyu had to be clear-headed. Seeing that Lin Yi was about to leave, he hurried to send him off. In fact, his excitement was no less than that of invincible primeval. The rise of the Thousand Blades faction was his greatest hope. With invincible primeval in perfect condition, he could at least look forward to becoming one of the top 10 disciples. When Ling Tianyu returned, invincible primeval finally came back to his senses. He let out a long sigh and said, "Tianyu, you really have good foresight to be able to make a friend like Lin Yi. Now I really believe that the Qingquan sect does not dare to provoke Lin Yi. How could he be at the Foundation Establishment Great Circle? How could a Foundation Establishment Great Circle heal a nascent soul Great Circle? Moreover, he did not show any signs of fatigue after the treatment?" Ling Tianyu nodded in agreement and said, "That's right, Brother Lin is indeed unfathomable. Invincible Patriarch, if there is a chance in the future, we must repay Brother Lin well." "That's natural. Lin Yi did not simply heal me. He gave our Thousand Blades faction hope. Otherwise, the Thousand Blades faction would have vanished into thin air." Invincible Primeval was sincerely convinced by Lin Yi. The ancient underworld was a place where only the strong were respected, not to mention that Lin Yi was his savior. After sighing, Invincible Primeval excitedly asked Ling Tianyu about Lin Yi. He looked like a fan chasing after a celebrity in the secular world. Ling Tianyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After chatting casually for a while, Ling Tianyu quickly said, "Invincible Patriarch, our Thousand Blades faction now has the hope of reviving. Brother Lin also said that we should hurry up and register, then go to the Shangguan clan to pay our respects. Why don't we go now? Let's go. Hurry up, I'll go with you. The ancient grand meeting is about to begin. If we don't hurry up, we'll miss the opportunity." Thinking about the revival of the Thousand Blades faction, Invincible Primeval immediately jumped up from his seat. This was a big event that couldn't be delayed. The two didn't have much to pack, so they quickly went to register for the ancient grand meeting. In fact, the Thousand Blades faction had registered before, but because most of their disciples left, they were disqualified. They couldn't be blamed for this, as they only had a crippled Invincible Primeval and Ling Tianyu. It was impossible for them to participate in the ancient grand meeting. But now it was different. Invincible Primeval was a peak nascent soul cultivator, and he alone was enough to fight against an entire faction. Even if the Thousand Blades faction only had the two of them left, no one could look down on them. After registering, Ling Tianyu and Invincible Primeval went straight to the Shangguan clan to pay their respects. Chapter 5547. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go? Shuo.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Shangguan Qingyin also knew about the Thousand Blades sect. It was a sect that was related to Lin Yi. When the son of the Qingquan sect's sect master died, there were people from the Thousand Blades sect by his side. Hence, after receiving the visiting card, Shangguan Qingyin didn't dare to delay, and asked someone to bring them in. Love Gob Smalp say Netka, this must be the Thousand Blades sect's primordial Taoist, right? And Ling Tianyu, sect master? Shangguan Qingyin welcomed the two of them enthusiastically at the entrance of the living room. This was already considered a grand etiquette. Primordial Invincible quickly walked up to greet him. He cupped his fists and said, "Shangguan family head, how could we dare to trouble you to come and greet us?" Ling Tianyu's face was slightly red. Now that there were only two people left in the Thousand Blades sect, he was indeed the sect master of the Thousand Blades sect. Shangguan clan head. Junior Ling Tianyu greets the clan head. Although Shangguan Qingyin politely addressed Ling Tianyu as the sect master, Ling Tianyu didn't really think that he was on equal footing with Shangguan Qingyin. "You two don't have to be so polite. There's no need to talk about seniors and juniors between us. Why don't we talk as equals?" Shangguan Qingyin knew that Ling Tianyu had gotten to know Lin Yi when he was training in the secular world, and he had a good relationship with Lin Yi. Therefore, Shangguan Qingyin wouldn't put on an act in front of Ling Tianyu. It was necessary to be modest. I don't dare, I don't dare. How can this junior be qualified to speak with the Shangguan family's patriarch as an equal? Ling Tianyu was startled and hurriedly waved his hand to refuse. What a joke! Who was Shangguan Qingyan? The patriarchs of the 4 great sects and clans, while the Thousand Blades sect didn't even have the qualifications to be one of the 10 small sections. With the strength of the primordial invincible great perfection of the nascent soul realm, he could barely be compared to Shangguan Qingyan. What was Ling Tianyu? If he really agreed, then he would really be unable to differentiate good from bad. Shangguan Qingyan smiled faintly and didn't explain much. He invited the two to sit down and served them tea, then asked with a smile, "Fellow Taoists, did you come to our Shangguan clan because of Grand Marshal Uncle Lin Yi's recommendation?" Previously, he had just mentioned to Lin Yi if there were any sects that he should focus on, and the Thousand Blades sect came knocking on his door. Of course, Shangguan Qingyan knew that Lin Yi was behind this. Moreover, when he left the Green Cloud sect, he saw that Lin Yi was heading towards the Thousand Blades sect. Ling Tianyu nodded subconsciously. Then he came to a realization and exchanged a glance with Primordial Invincible. Did Shangguan Qingyan really say, Marshal Granduncle Lin Yi just now? Ling Tianyu knew that Lin Yi was the Grand Marshal Granduncle of the Green Cloud sect. But since when did the Shangguan clan's clan master have to address Lin Yi as Grand Marshal Uncle? You don't have to be surprised. Our Shangguan clan and the 3 great sects of the Northern Island are inextricably linked. It's true that Grand Marshal Uncle Lin Yi is an elder of the Green Cloud sect, but he is also an elder of our Shangguan clan. So for now, you are temporarily under the Shangguan clan. After this archaic meeting, you will become a sect under the Green Cloud sect, just like our Shangguan clan. Shangguan Qingyan didn't feel embarrassed at all. Not only was there nothing to be embarrassed about, but it also made Shangguan Qingyan feel proud of having such a powerful backer like Lin Yi. Primordial Invincible and Ling Tianyu looked at each other. They really couldn't understand what was going on. However, when they thought about how unfathomable Lin Yi was, they suddenly felt that it wasn't something that they couldn't understand. Shangguan Qingyan didn't care about what they were thinking. He continued speaking in a gentle tone. Since Grand Marshal Uncle Lin Yi wants your Thousand Blades faction to enter the top 10, then this matter is basically in the bag. In the future, we should get closer to each other. After all, we are all disciples of Grand Marshal Uncle Lin Yi, so we should take care of each other. In this qualifying round, you should prepare for those events first. Perhaps it will be easier for you to enter the top 10. Shangguan Qingyan didn't know if Grand Marshal Uncle Lin Yi had told them about this. Just to be safe, he told them about the events in detail. Primordial Invincible and Ling Tianyu were very grateful. Previously, Lin Yi really didn't mention these things. In his opinion, with Primordial Invincible, who was at the great circle of the nascent soul realm, there was basically no one who could rival them except for the top 4. Therefore, those preparations in advance weren't of much use to Primordial Invincible. After a while, Primordial Invincible and Ling Tianyu bid farewell and left. After leaving the Shangguan clan, Primordial Invincible let out a long sigh and said, Tianyu, I thought I had overestimated Lin Yi, but now I know that I have still greatly underestimated Lin Yi's strength. Ling Tianyu also sighed. Let alone Patriarch Invincible, this disciple has always known that Brother Lin is powerful. But I didn't expect him to be so powerful. Just thinking about it is a bit unbelievable. Tianyu, you can't call him Brother Lin so casually in the future. Didn't you hear Family Master Shangguan call him Grand Marshal Uncle? Don't tell me you want to be Family Master Shangguan's Grand Marshal Uncle. Primordial Invincible scolded with a serious expression. Previously, Primordial Invincible thought that it was a good thing for Ling Tianyu to call Lin Yi brother. However, since even the Shangguan clan was a junior, it was inappropriate for Ling Tianyu to address Lin Yi as such. In my opinion, Senior Lin Yi is definitely an ancient almighty being. Even an old man like me wouldn't feel wronged if I call him senior. Kid, you should be more respectful, understand? Primordial Invincible had long since put away his arrogance and spirit. In front of Lin Yi's strength, He would be an idiot if he continued to act insolently. Yes, this disciple understands. Ling Tianyu didn't agree with Primordial Invincible's words. He didn't think that Lin Yi was such a person, but he didn't dare go against Primordial Invincible's words. While they were talking, a few high-ranking members of the Qingkuan sect walked toward them. The one leading them was the sect master, Transcending Tribulation Enlightened. When he saw Primordial Invincible and Ling Tianyu coming out from the Shangguan clan's territory, he was shocked. Without saying anything, he waved his hand, turned around and left. Ling Tianyu asked in surprise, "Why did the people from the Qingkuan sect leave as soon as they saw us? Is it because they found out that you, Patriarch Invincible, have fully recovered your nascent soul cultivation?" Primordial Invincible looked at Transcending Tribulation Enlightened Master, then coldly harumphed and said, "It's not a big deal if they found out that I've fully recovered. However, Transcending Tribulation Enlightened Master is only slightly weaker than me, so they aren't afraid of me. What they are afraid of is the place where we came from." Ling Tianyu suddenly understood. He turned around and looked at the Shangguan clan's territory, then said, "So that's how it is. It seems like the Shangguan clan's strength has indeed made the Qingkuan sect afraid." Silly boy, the Qingkuan sect isn't afraid of the Shangguan clan, but the Azure Cloud sect behind them. Only now did I realize how terrifying the Azure Cloud sect is. Or I should say, how terrifying the grand uncle of the Azure Cloud sect is, Senior Lin Yi. Primordial Invincible had a fascinated look on his face. The fact that the Qingkuan sect didn't even dare to look for trouble with the Thousand Blades faction showed how terrifying Lin Yi was in the Qingkuan sect. Chapter 5548. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go? TalkNet, providing you with wonderful novels to read. You're really lucky, kid. Let's go back and prepare. This time, our Thousand Blades sect should have no problem entering the top 10 youngsters. Primordial Invincible was in a good mood. Seeing Sage Du Jie's expression, Primordial Invincible was even more certain of Lin Yi's ability. The Thousand Blades sect's confidence in entering the top 10 youngsters also skyrocketed. Lovegobe's small talk netcave at night, the archaic convention officially opened. All the sects and families in Ruined Town gathered together. The perfected nascent soul realm masters of the 4 major sects and families, as the hosts, naturally had to come out. However, only the few who came in the morning came out. Sage Dunan and Shangguan Feixing still did not appear. According to the previous rules, the Qingkuan sect's tribulation passing sage would speak on such occasions. However, it was different this time. The first to come out was actually Shangguan Qingyin from the Shangguan clan. Sect masters and family heads, the archaic convention is about to begin. Everyone's basic points should have been reported, right? You can't fake it. Otherwise, I won't be the unlucky one. Shangguan Qingyin said with a relaxed and humorous expression. Unfortunately, no one reacted. The atmosphere was very strange. Although the recent rumors did mention the strength of the Shangguan clan, no one expected the Shangguan clan to be so strong that they directly snatched the Qingkuan sect's speech at the opening of the archaic convention. Moreover, the Qingkuan sect did not react at all. Shangguan Qingyin laughed and did not feel embarrassed. He continued, "It seems that everyone can't wait for the archaic convention to begin. I won't say much. Now I'll directly announce the basic points of all the sects and families. Everyone vote." After saying that, Shangguan Qingyin turned around and pointed at the huge jade wall behind him. Strong and forceful handwriting automatically appeared on the jade wall. "Look, the 5 Elements sect has the highest basic points. The Qingkuan sect has fallen to 2nd place, and it's quite close to the 3rd place, the Ancient Heavens sect." Someone could not help but exclaim in a low voice. The Shangguan clan's basic points have also increased, but they still haven't surpassed the Ancient Heavens sect. How can they speak at the beginning? Why do you care so much? Look at your own sect first. The discussion about the basic points did not last long, because the only thing that could be talked about was the fact that Qingkuan Gate had dropped to 2nd place. However, there were already signs of this. After all, the rumor had been around for several days, so no one was surprised. After waiting for a while, Shangguan Qingyun said, "Next will be the announcement of the competition. After everyone has seen it, you can vote on the spot to decide if you want to maintain the original ranking or let the capable ones challenge it. Let's cut to the chase. Think about it yourselves." After that, the jade disc showed the projects that had been discussed, and then the voting began on the spot. The voting process didn't require much time. In fact, before the primeval grand meeting began, the various sects and clans basically had an idea of what to do. Therefore, the voting process was completed very quickly. After the calculation, the Qinkuan Gate's basic points and voting points surpassed the 5 elemental sect for the time being. However, it wasn't only the Qinkuan Gate that surpassed the 5 elemental sect. The Shangguan clan had also surpassed the 5 elemental sect. Although it was only a slight advantage, it did surpass the 5 elemental sect. Obviously, all the sects and clans believed that the Shangguan clan's strength shouldn't be the weakest among the 4 big sections. Of course, this wasn't important. The 4 big sects were still the 4 big sects, and nothing unexpected had happened. The same went for the 10 small sections. Before the new sects revealed their strength, everyone still believed in the old sections. The only pity was that the Blue Cloud sect wasn't ranked first among the 10 small sections. In other words, the Blue Cloud sect wasn't qualified to challenge the 4 big sections. They had to challenge the 10 small sects above them first, before they could challenge the 4 big sections. Lin Yi and Xi and Ijia weren't surprised by this result. After all, everyone thought that the Shangguan clan was very powerful, but it had nothing to do with the Blue Cloud sect. Although Lin Yi had sold a lot of pills, which helped the Blue Cloud sect gain a lot of fame, it only increased their ranking by a few points. They didn't enter the first place among the 10 small sects, but they were pretty close to it. Although it'll take some effort, it's not a big deal. It's easy to get the qualification to challenge the 4 big sections. At least, it's much better than the Thousand Blade School. Lin Yi didn't mind this at all. He just felt sorry for the Thousand Blade School, but there was nothing he could do about it. After all, that was the rule. Of course, Lin Yi knew that with the immemorial undefeatable sect's strength, entering the 10 small sects wouldn't be a problem. However, the Thousand Blade School's reputation had been completely ruined. Not only did they lose the qualification to challenge the 10 small sects, they didn't even have the qualification to challenge the 10 small sections. According to the rules, if the Thousand Blade School wanted to become one of the 10 small sects, they had to first challenge their current position and obtain the qualification to challenge the 10 small sections. Then, they would continue to challenge the 10 small sects until they obtained the qualification to challenge the 10 small sections. Finally, they could officially challenge the 10 small sections. Fortunately, with the immemorial undefeatable sect at the nascent Soul Realm, Lin Yi didn't have to worry about the Thousand Blade School not having the chance to get promoted. The only thing he had to consider was how many battles the Thousand Blade School had to go through in order to successfully get promoted. Everyone has seen the score. Needless to say, you all know where you are and when it's your turn. Now, let's begin the challenge for the 10 small sects qualification. This time, it was the Tribulation Passing Sage who spoke. After all, he was the nominal leader of the 4 big sections. He couldn't let Shangguan Qingyun steal all the limelight. There were only 5 reserve seats for the challenge of the 10 minor sects. If the Thousand Blades faction wanted to challenge them, they would first have to enter one of the 5 reserve seats. However, the Thousand Blades faction could only challenge the last reserve seat. If they succeeded, they would have to continue resisting the other sects that wanted to challenge the reserve seat. As for the qualification to challenge the 10 small sects, in theory, all 5 of them could. However, the reality was that only the first place could challenge any of the 10 small sects unconditionally. The second to 5th places could only continue to challenge the 10 small sects after the first place succeeded in the challenge. If the first place failed, then the next 4 would lose the qualification to challenge. This rule could be said to be quite unfair, but there was no other way. After all, the rules of the game were set by the 4 big sections. They couldn't possibly make rules that were unfavorable to their own sections. Chapter 5549. Genius 1 Second. Remember if you want to go? This is a wonderful novel for you to read. The so-called gambling battle was when the reserve qualification could not continue to be challenged. One could take out 1,000 spiritual jades to bet against the 10 small sections. No matter who won or lost, the 1,000 spiritual jades would not be returned. If the challenger won, he could only advance to the next round. The spiritual jades were taken by the town of ruins and belonged to the organization. If the challenger lost, he would lose everything. The spiritual jades would be lost to the 10 small sections. The rules of this gambling battle could be said to be quite cruel. It also prevented the weak sects from having any wishful thinking, so as not to waste the time of the archaic meeting. After Dujia Junren finished speaking, the real host of the archaic meeting finally appeared. He was not an outsider. He was still an elder of the Qingkuan sect, but his title was the managing elder of the town of ruins. The town of ruins was jointly controlled by the 4 big sects, so the managing elder was naturally a member of the 4 big sections. It was only because the Qingkuan sect was strong that he occupied this position for a long time. This year, it was estimated that someone else would take over. Since Dujia Junren has made it very clear, I will not say more. Is there anyone who wants to challenge the reserve qualification of the 10 small sects? The great elder of the town of ruins did not say any nonsense and went straight to the point. Ling Tianyu immediately raised his hand and said, "The Thousand Blades sect wants to challenge the reserve qualification." The great elder of the town of ruins glanced at Ling Tianyu and said, "The Thousand Blades sect wants to challenge? All right, the 5th reserve qualification is the 3 C's sect. The Thousand Blades sect can challenge." Many small sects and families were suddenly in an uproar. No one expected that the first to jump out was actually the Thousand Blades sect. Isn't the Thousand Blades sect only left with 2 people? How dare they come out to challenge? You are too ignorant. How can there be 2 people? There is clearly only 1.5, okay? Apart from Ling Tianyu, there is also a cripple. Even half is a bit too much. That should be the archaic undefeated, right? He doesn't look like a cripple, but there is really no aura on his body. Maybe his cultivation has been destroyed. Low murmurs of discussion could be heard, but Ling Tianyu was not affected in the slightest. He still looked as calm as ever. The Thousand Blades School's goal was to become one of the 10 minor ones. Ling Tianyu did not care about a mere reserve qualification. A disciple from the 3 C's sect stepped forward and sneered. "I was wondering who it was that wanted to challenge our 3 C's sect. So it's sect master Ling Tianyu from the Thousand Blades sect." "Oh, I'm sorry, it's Ling Tianyu, the lone sect leader. You've really overwhelmed our 3 C's sect." Ling Tianyu's expression didn't change. He said indifferently, "Don't be overwhelmed by the favor. You will be shocked very soon. Tell me, what are the rules of the challenge?" As the 10 candidates for the lowest level of the primeval grand meeting, the Big Four didn't spend any effort to prepare any challenges. They directly stipulated that the person being challenged would be the one to decide the challenge. That was why Ling Tianyu had asked the members of the 3 C's sect how to challenge their opponents. Without a doubt, the rules were still biased towards the challenged party. However, there were times when man's plans were not as good as God's. The disciple from the 3 C's sect mocked. "Shocked? I think you're here to die today, aren't you? A mere perfected foundation establishment cultivator wants to carry the banner of the Thousand Blades sect? Forget it, seeing how pitiful you are. I won't bully you today. Let's settle this in one battle." How do we settle this in one battle? Ling Tianyu was secretly delighted. Right now, the Thousand Blades sect only had 2 members. If the 3 C's sect proposed a battle of numbers, it would be quite disadvantageous to the Thousand Blades sect. It would be great if they could decide the victor in a one-on-one battle. Indeed, things were developing in the direction that was most beneficial to the Thousand Blades sect. After the 3 C's sect's disciple received the sect leader's signal, he suggested a single battle between 2 nascent soul realm experts. If you want to become one of the 10, The minimum requirement is to have a nascent soul realm expert, or a golden core realm expert, with strength equivalent to a nascent soul realm expert. Since the Thousand Blades sect wants to challenge us, then bring out your strongest combat strength to settle this. The disciple's face was full of mockery. Although there was nothing wrong with his words, his tone was full of sarcasm. Everyone knew that the invincible primordial spirit of the Thousand Blades sect had been crippled by the Qingquan sect. Otherwise, the Thousand Blades sect would not have been left with only 2 people. With such an opportunity, the Three Seas sect naturally would not let it go. With the reputation of the invincible primordial spirit, the Three Seas sect's nascent soul realm cultivator could still show off a little. This was a good plan. Unfortunately, the invincible primordial spirit was no longer the crippled invincible primordial spirit. Instead, he had returned to his peak. The Three Seas sect's petty tricks played right into the Thousand Blades sect's hands. When he heard the challenge rules, Ling Tianyu almost jumped up and cheered. All right. Ling Tianyu suppressed the urge to laugh maniacally in his heart. Without batting an eyelid, he said, "Since you guys are the ones being challenged, the Thousand Blades sect naturally has no objections. Let's begin the challenge." Seeing Ling Tianyu's calm demeanor, the Three Seas sect felt a little uneasy. Ling Tianyu, who was at the Foundation Establishment perfected level, would naturally not participate in the duel between nascent soul realm cultivators. That left only the invincible primordial spirit. The agreed duel was usually between cultivators of the same realm. Ling Tianyu was indeed not qualified to participate. Therefore, under the astonished gazes of the Three Seas sect, the invincible primordial spirit walked out leisurely. He said proudly, "I would like to see which nascent soul expert dares to challenge me one-on-one." Some of the spectators who did not know the truth immediately started to make a ruckus. "Look at that old man. He's really putting on a good show. If I didn't know that he was crippled, I would have been fooled by him. After all, he used to be a veteran at the nascent soul realm. He has been famous for a long time. Even if he's crippled, he can still put on airs." The spectators, who thought that they had seen through the secrets of the heavens, were just here to watch a show. In reality, they did not care whether the invincible primordial spirit was crippled or not. The most important thing was to watch a show. However, their discussion made the people of the Three Seas sect secretly heave a sigh of relief. Initially, when they saw the invincible primordial spirit's arrogant behavior, the Three Seas sect felt a little diffident. Now that they knew that he was just bluffing, there was nothing to be afraid of. "Ha ha ha ha, you really are a yawning toad. How arrogant." The Grand Supreme Elder of the Three Seas sect laughed loudly as he walked out to welcome the invincible primordial spirit. This was an expert who had just broken through to the nascent soul realm not too long ago. If the invincible primordial spirit had not been injured, he would not have dared to challenge the invincible primordial spirit, even if he was beaten to death. Chapter 5550. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go? Sure, Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. I've long heard that the Thousand Blades sect's primordial invincible was the #1 nascent soul cultivator in the past. As a junior, I would like to ask for some advice. I hope that primordial invincible senior can show mercy. The face of the Three Seas sect's grand elder was filled with mockery. What senior? What leniency? Even a fool could tell that he was mocking the primordial invincibility. Primordial Invincible turned a deaf ear to the discussions below. He merely glanced at the Three Seas sect's great elder indifferently and said in disdain, "How dare a clown like you make such a ruckus? Ha 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 ha. Primordial Invincible Senior really has the demeanor of an expert. Junior is so scared that I don't dare to move. Otherwise you can come and hit me. Come on, don't be polite. Bring out your full strength." The Grand Elder of the Three Seas sect was certain that Primordial Invincible did not have the ability to make a move. Hence, he was cheering rather happily. Primordial Invincible's brows twitched. As a senior expert, it would have been inappropriate for him to make the first move. However, since the other party was the one who requested it, Primordial Invincible couldn't very well give him face. This old man will fulfill your wish, Primordial Invincible said coldly, as he casually sent out a stream of primary energy. In an instant, it struck the chest of the 3 C's Sect's Supreme Elder. Before the astonished expression on the face of the 3 C's Sect's Supreme Elder could be completely revealed, his entire body was sent flying, leaving behind a trail of blood droplets in the air. Love Gobe smalt say Nekka. By the time he landed on the ground, he was panting more than he was inhaling. Even though he wasn't dead, he was in a half-dead state. The entire place fell silent. The people who had been talking excitedly lowered their heads and shrunk back. They were afraid that Invincible Primeval would come after them. Primordial Invincible flicked his sleeves and said with a calm expression, "I've never seen someone so stupid." He actually begged for someone to beat him up. Fortunately, I didn't hear him use his full strength. He can't even take a little bit of it. How weak! My God, Invincible Primordial Senior has actually recovered. He's a genuine nascent soul cultivator. Incredible! Invincible Primordial Senior is truly mighty and domineering. The revival of the Thousand Blades sect is right in front of us. Invincible Immemorial Senior can definitely lead the Thousand Blades sect back to the 10 Minor. After a moment of silence, those who had mocked the Invincible Primordial Cultivators realized that they couldn't hide anymore. They were at the peak of the nascent soul realm. If they were targeted, there was a possibility of a massacre happening at any moment. Therefore, these people changed their tune and began to flatter Primeval Invincible loudly. Primeval Invincible had lost a lot of his arrogance after the previous setback. Naturally, he was a lot calmer. It didn't matter if those people were making fun of him or praising him. Primordial Invincible turned to look at the great elder of the ruined town. His lips curled into a smile as he said, "Is there any problem with our Thousand Blades School's reserve qualification?" The ruins town's great elder stole a glance at Sage Tribulation Transcendence. When he saw that Sage Tribulation Transcendence did not say anything, he immediately nodded and said, "There's no problem." The Thousand Blades sect defeated the 3 C's sect and became the 5th among the 10 minor substitutes. Are there any sects or clans who wish to challenge for the substitutes? You may continue now. As soon as he said that, the crowd fell into an awkward silence again. This challenge could only be challenged against the 5th reserve qualification. Moreover, the rules of the challenge were decided by the challenger. In other words, those who wanted to challenge now would almost certainly have to face the Invincible Primordial Cultivator at the peak of the nascent soul realm. Just look at the Supreme Elder of the 3 C's sect, who was still vomiting blood on the ground. Who would be so free to challenge him? At that moment, Sage Tribulation Transcendence's heart was pounding. He subconsciously stole a glance at the Emerald Cloud sect. He would never believe that the Invincible Primordial Cultivator's recovery had nothing to do with Lin Yi. Lin Yi was indeed strange. He could even heal the Invincible Primordial Cultivator's injuries. Others might not know, but Sage Tribulation Transcendence definitely knew how serious the Invincible Primordial Cultivator's injuries were. After all, apart from Sage Tribulation Transcendence, he had also contributed a lot to the Invincible Primordial Cultivator's injuries. Is there no one else who wishes to challenge? In that case, the reserve qualification for the 10 aptitudes has been determined. The first to directly challenge the 10 aptitudes is the Tyrant's Blade sect. The next 2 to 4 are the 3 Talents sect, the Chu family, the Profound G sect, and the Thousand Blades sect. Now let the challenge of the 10 aptitudes begin. The MC expressionlessly announced the 5 sects that had obtained the reserve qualification, and then prepared for the challenge of the 10 aptitudes. Originally, with the strength of the Profound G sect, there was no way for them to obtain the reserve qualification. Seeing that Hong Xuanlei's attitude was not bad, Lin Yi gave a nascent soul golden pill to Hong Xianlei in the end, allowing him to advance to the nascent soul realm. In any case, he was an honorary Grand Elder. Without this strength, it was not impossible for the Profound G sect to return to the 10 aptitudes. With Lin Yi around, it would be easy to force the Profound G sect into the 10 aptitudes, But that would be somewhat unjustifiable. The Tyrant's Blade sect, which was ranked first, directly obtained the right to challenge. Wei Yidao walked out and said to Ling Tianyu with a hearty laugh, "Today has really broadened my horizons. Even two people's sects can enter the 10 aptitudes. But it doesn't matter, you will always be like this. If you are lucky enough to obtain the reserve qualification, you should be secretly happy for a long time, right? There is no hope for you in this year's archaic meeting. Next time, when you take in 1 or 2 more disciples, perhaps you will be able to improve further, right? Ha 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 ha. Wei Yidao, don't be too arrogant. Take care of yourself first. I am still waiting to challenge you. Don't lose." Ling Tianyu retorted without any trace of politeness. What he meant was that after the Tyrant's Blade sect successfully advanced to the 10 aptitudes, the Thousand Blade sect would once again knock the Tyrant's Blade sect down from the 10 aptitudes. If it wasn't for a deep hatred, they normally wouldn't do such a thing. Normally, after the immemorial invincible sect recovered, the Tyrant's Blade sect shouldn't have the guts to continue provoking them. After all, the nascent soul old monsters of the Tyrant's Blade sect weren't at the great circle of the nascent soul realm. They were only at the middle stage of the nascent soul realm. However, Wei Yidao had done so. If there wasn't a problem with his brain, then he definitely had something to rely on. However, it was also possible that Wei Yidao still didn't know that the Qingquan sect had suffered a loss. He thought that the Qingquan sect had simply ignored the Thousand Blade sect and let them off. In any case, before the Tyrant's Blade sect successfully advanced to the 10 aptitudes, the Tyrant's Blade sect and the Thousand Blade sect wouldn't have any interaction. The host impatiently interrupted the war of words between Wei Yidao and Ling Tianyu. The 10 aptitudes challenge has begun. Does the Tyrant's Blade sect wish to challenge the clans of the 10 aptitudes? Or do you want to give up on this challenge? Wei Yidao hurriedly raised his hand and said, "The Tyrant's Blade sect wishes to challenge the Xuanyu sect of the 10 aptitudes." What a joke. It wasn't easy for them to obtain the right to challenge. How could they give up just like that? Chapter 55-51. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go? Sure, Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Any sect that wasn't one of the top 10 small sects, as long as they obtained the reserve qualification, regardless of whether they had the strength or not, they would at least give it a try. What if they succeeded? Alright, the challenge between the Tyrant's Blade School and the Xuanyu School will begin immediately. You all know the rules, right? The great elder of the ruined town nodded and continued. I will repeat the rules again. The rest of you listen up. The rules of the 10 minor challenges this time are the same as before. There will still be 3 matches. Nascent Soul Stage, Golden Core Stage and Foundation Establishment Stage will each have 1 match. 2 wins out of 3 matches. If the challenge was successful, the challenger would be promoted to the 10 small sects, and the one who was challenged would be the last candidate. If the challenges of the top 4 went smoothly, they would still have the chance to challenge the 10 small sects again, or they could choose to give up. The second substitute will be promoted to the first substitute, and will continue to have the right to challenge the 10 kids, including those who have just been promoted. If the challenge fails, the order will not change. The second substitute will not have the right to challenge the 10 kids, unless you choose to gamble. Do you understand? The great elder of the ruined town explained the rules unhurriedly. In fact, everyone knew that it was just a formality. Wei Yidao cupped his fists respectfully and bowed. Many thanks for First Elder's explanation. We all understand. The first match of the Tyrant Saber School's Foundation Establishment Cultivators will be this junior's match. The great elder of Ruins Town made a sound of acknowledgement, then turned to the Xuanyu School's side and said, "Who will be participating in the Xuanyu School's Foundation Establishment competition? Get on the stage now." "Allow me." In Xuanyu Sect's camp, a perfected Foundation Establishment disciple stood up and walked up to the arena with an imposing manner. Love Gobe Small Say Netku Xuanyu Sect's Yu Lingfeng has come to accept the challenge. Yu Lingfeng said expressionlessly, but his eyes revealed traces of anger. Although the High Feather School was one of the weaker sects among the 10 minor sects, They were not the weakest of the 10 minor sects. The Tyrant Blade School had chosen the High Feather School right from the start. They had really underestimated the High Feather School. It would be strange if Yu Lingfeng treated Wei Yidao nicely. Wei Yidao shrugged his shoulders and let out a strange laugh. What a frightening aura. I wonder what will happen when they fight. It would be great if he wasn't just a paper tiger that was bluffing. Tyrant Blade Sect's Wei Yidao. Before his voice faded away, Wei Yidao pulled out his thick-backed long saber with a shake of his hand and swung it toward Yu Lingfeng's body. The great elder of the ruins town raised his eyebrows slightly. He had not announced the start of the fight, but Wei Yidao had already made the first move. Strictly speaking, this was against the rules. However, the great elder of the ruins town was originally a member of the Qianquan sect, and the Tyrant Blade School was a branch of the Qianquan sect. Of course, he would ignore such a small detail if he could. Yu Lingfeng narrowed his eyes. Even though he didn't expect Wei Yidao to suddenly attack, he didn't panic in the slightest. With a light tap of his foot, he flew into the air. At the same time, he raised his hands and dozens of steel short feathers shot out. Wei Yidao's long saber moved horizontally and horizontally. The momentum of the saber was fierce and tyrannical. It was worthy of the name tyrannical. Before Yu Lingfeng's steel short feathers could get close, they were engulfed by the momentum of Wei Yidao's saber and completely lost their accuracy. Petty tricks. Is this all the Xianyu school can do? Wei Yidao laughed crazily as he stepped forward. The momentum of his saber increased once again. The steel short feathers that were engulfed by the saber all fell to the ground. They didn't even have the ability to stop Wei Yidao. However, Yu Lingfeng, who was in the air, didn't show any signs of panic. Instead, there was a faint mocking smile on his face. With a shake of his hands, his body, which had already started to fall, suddenly shot up again. It was as if he had a pair of invisible wings on his back. Light feather arrow. Yu Lingfeng ignored Wei Yidao's provocation. He only let out a low roar, and the true energy in his body surged. The steel short feathers that had been engulfed by Wei Yidao's saber actually flew up from the ground and towards Wei Yidao again. Not only that, the steel short feathers that flew up again gave off a faint white light. Whether it was speed or strength, they were more than twice as strong as before. In an instant, the steel short feathers were within half a foot of Wei Yidao's body. If there were no changes, Wei Yidao's body would immediately have dozens of bloody holes. Haha, interesting. Facing this kind of danger, Wei Yidao actually laughed twice. The saber in his hand did not change direction, but his feet moved strangely a few times. With just a slight movement of his body, Yu Lingfeng's light feather arrow flew past Wei Yidao's body. The closest one even scratched Wei Yidao's clothes, leaving a small hole. However, it still didn't hurt Wei Yidao in the slightest. In the air, Yu Lingfeng's expression finally changed slightly. At this time, Wei Yidao's saber, which carried an unparalleled saber momentum, had already closed in on Yu Lingfeng. Yu Lingfeng could only shake his arms again and change his body in the air for the second time. This was already his limit. No matter how agile the Xianyu sect's movement technique was, Yu Lingfeng was still only at the foundation establishment stage. If he still couldn't shake off Wei Yidao's pursuit, then he could only face Wei Yidao's saber head-on. In order to save his life, Yu Lingfeng roared as he changed his body. Turn! The fine steel short feathers that flew past Wei Yidao immediately turned around nimbly like fish in water and shot towards Wei Yidao again. At such a close distance, Yu Lingfeng didn't believe that Wei Yidao could use his footwork to dodge. Even if he could dodge, it would definitely affect his saber momentum. In that case, it would at least give Yu Lingfeng a chance to catch his breath. Wei Yidao laughed disdainfully. Have you exhausted your limited abilities? Then there's nothing fun to do. As he spoke, the saber momentum didn't change. After a slight adjustment, it continued to chase after Yu Lingfeng. As for the fine steel short feathers that turned into light feather arrows, Wei Yidao didn't continue to use his footwork to dodge. Instead, he held the saber sheath in his left hand and used it as a saber to slash again. The ferocious saber momentum instantly split the air in front of Wei Yidao, emitting a violent sonic boom. The fine steel short feathers that were flying towards Yu Lingfeng were completely cut off by this saber. One by one, they bounced off to both sides. Some of them were even directly chopped into pieces by the saber momentum. Yu Lingfeng's expression finally changed completely. He thought that Wei Yidao's previous saber strike was the result of him going all out. He didn't expect it to be completely different. From this saber strike, it could be seen that Wei Yidao had held back a lot of strength. In other words, this saber strike that chased after Yu Lingfeng was just a casual strike from Wei Yidao. When did Wei Yidao of the Tyrant Saber sect become so powerful? With this kind of strength, even if he were to cross realms to deal with a weaker early-stage gold core cultivator, it wouldn't be a problem, right? These thoughts only flashed through Yu Lingfeng's mind in a flash. Then, Wei Yidao's saber had already arrived in front of him. There was no way to dodge, no way to retreat. Chapter 55-52. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go? TalkNet, providing you with exciting novels to read. Yu Lingfeng let out a long sigh. He knew he had lost. The only thing he could hope for now was to stay alive. Love Gobe Small Talk Net. More than 10 shiny steel feathers shot out from his sleeves like lightning. This was Yu Lingfeng's last resort. He didn't want to hurt his opponent, he only wanted to protect himself. These steel feathers formed a small shield in front of Yu Lingfeng. However, against Wei Yidao's longsword, it didn't even hinder it for a moment. It only reduced the strength of the longsword slightly. However, Yu Lingfeng was already very satisfied. It was precisely this slight reduction in strength that gave him a chance to survive. Wei Yidao was originally attacking with half of his strength, and he was also splitting his attention to do two things at the same time. After being slightly blocked by these fine steel short feathers, the long blade was only able to cut off Yu Lingfeng's left arm. Yu Lingfeng took the opportunity to retreat, directly falling out of the arena. According to the rules, falling out of the arena meant that the winner was determined. The winner could not continue attacking. Tyrant's Blade Sect challenges Xianyu Sect, one of the 10 minor sections. Tyrant's Blade Sect wins the first match of the foundational stage. The Great Elder of Ruined Town didn't show any change in his expression as he announced the result in a rather formal manner. The crowd was in an uproar. No one had expected Yu Lingfeng to lose so quickly. It seemed like a lot of time had passed, but the truth was that the outcome had been decided within a breath's time. Those who were weaker could only see Wei Yidao's blade, Yu Lingfeng flying back to counterattack, and then his left arm being cut off. The entire battle was over. As for the changes that happened, they couldn't see them clearly at all. Love Gobe Small Talk Netku. After recovering from their shock, the people of the Xuanyu sect immediately rushed out to help Yu Lingfeng up and put his severed arm back. As long as there were good pills and a good doctor, this severed arm could be reattached, and it would not affect him too much in the future. The problem was that they had lost this battle too quickly. Yu Lingfeng was not a nobody. Among the disciples who had completed the foundation establishment stage, he could be ranked in the top 10 in the entire ancient Jianghu. At this level, there would not be too much of a difference. However, Wei Yidao had clearly overturned this concept. On the stage, Wei Yidao laughed heartily as he sheathed his saber. He had a high-spirited and complacent appearance. Then, he looked at Yu Lingfeng with disdain and shook his head lightly. Yu Lingfeng, your reputation is not as good as meeting you in person. Fortunately, Yu Lingfeng had fainted when he fell. Otherwise, he might have vomited blood after being ridiculed by Wei Yidao. From the Xuanyu sect's side, a cultivator at the Golden Elixir realm with a gloomy face walked out. He was Yu Lingfeng's uncle Yu Zhentian. Seeing that his nephew's arm had been chopped off, Yu Zhentian wanted to kill Wei Yidao immediately. Scram! Let your Jinyan come up. After stepping onto the stage, Yu Zhentian let out a low shout. If it wasn't for the fact that they were on the stage of the ancient grand meeting, he would have already attacked the arrogant Wei Yidao. Love Gope Small Say Netku. Wei Yidao laughed heartily and said, "You really scared me to death. Jinyan Great Circle is so powerful. It's as if every family doesn't have a perfected golden core." Yu Zhentian's expression was extremely unsightly. Although the great elder of the ruins town was biased towards the Tyrant Blade School, he did not wish to see the Profound Feather School suffer too much. Otherwise, the Qingquan school would be targeted by the other schools in the end. Wei Dao stepped down. Let your sect's gold core realm cultivator come up. The great elder of the ruins town said indifferently. In any case, it could be considered as appeasing Yu Xintian. Of course, Wei Dao would not disobey the words of the great elder of the ruins town. He immediately cupped his hands and said, I was just about to step down. Thank you, great elder. After saying that, Wei Dao threw a disdainful look at Yu Xintian. Then he turned his head and walked down. Fortunately, Yu Xintian was not provoked by Wei Dao this time. There was going to be a huge battle soon. After the battle between Wei Dao and Yu Lingfeng, Yu Xintian no longer dared to be careless. As expected, in the following battle, the Golden Core Realm Cultivator from the Tyrant Blade School easily defeated Yu Xintian again. The only difference was that Yu Xintian returned in one piece. He did not lose an arm or a leg like his nephew. At this moment, the spectators were in an even greater uproar. The Tyrant's Saber School was indeed a powerful sect. However, they had never heard of their members being this powerful. They were practically invincible among those of the same cultivation level. No matter what, the Profound Feather School was one of the 10 small schools. How could they be defeated in such a way? If that was the case, how many of the 10 small schools could be a match for the Tyrant Blade School? The great elder of the ruins town still had an indifferent expression. He announced indifferently, the Tyrant Blade School has challenged the 10 small schools. The Tyrant Blade School has won the second round of the Golden Core Realm competition. According to the rules, there is no need to continue the third round. The Tyrant Blade School will replace the Profound Feather School as one of the 10 small schools. The Profound Feather School will drop to the 5th reserve position and wait for an opportunity to challenge. The people from the Profound Feather School looked at the cheering Tyrant Blade School with grief and indignation. However, there was nothing they could do. Their skills were inferior. What else could they do? Now they could only hope for an opportunity to challenge again. Perhaps there was a chance for them to return to the 10 small schools. If they had to bet on a battle, 1,000 spiritual jade was not a small number for the Profound Feather School. It was not an amount that they could take out easily. Lenny looked at Wei Dao thoughtfully. To be honest, the combat strength that the Tyrant Blade School had displayed had indeed surprised Lenny. Of course, this was nothing to Lenny. Fortunately, the Tyrant Blade School's combat strength should have increased with the help of the Qingquan sect. This was not strange. As long as they did not have anything to do with the center, Lenny did not care too much. However, the center had been too quiet recently. Would the center not interfere in an event like the primordial meeting? Just as Lenny was thinking about the center, the second reserve position, the 3 talent sect, also began to challenge the 10 small schools. As the Tyrant Blade School had succeeded in their challenge, the 3 talent sect naturally rose to the first position and obtained the right to directly challenge the 10 small schools. The 3 talent sect chose to challenge the 6 harmony sect. These 2 sects were originally one family thousands of years ago. However, they later fell out and became enemies. As a result, the enmity had not been resolved for thousands of years. However, the 6 harmony sect's strength was obviously a level higher. The 6 harmony sect won 2 consecutive matches. There was no need to continue the third match. The 3 talent sect has failed in their challenge against the 6 harmony sect. All the reserve positions have lost the right to challenge. Does the Chu family want to challenge the 10 small schools by betting? If you want to bet, please take out 1,000 spiritual jades first. The great elder of the ruins town glanced at the 3 talent sect that had failed and looked directly at the Chu family. This time, the Chu family had sent out all their elites. The leader was naturally Chu Yuntian, the great elder. The great elder Chu Yunting and the patriarch Chu Tianlu had also come. In addition, there were 8 golden core stage experts. In order to get into the 10 small schools, the Chu family had always kept a low profile and hid their strength. They only said that they had 2 or 3 golden core stage experts, but in reality, they had more than 10 golden core stage experts. Chapter 55-53. Genius in 1 second. Remember to go away? Shuanet, providing you with wonderful novel reading. In terms of strength, the Chu family definitely had the ability to occupy a place in the 10 little ones. But now that they had lost the right to challenge, they could only choose a wagered battle. Chu Yintian was distressed. 1,000 spiritual jades. Whether they won or lost, they couldn't get the 1,000 spiritual jades back. After coming to Ruins Town, Chu Yintian and the others also visited Lin Yi. Although Lin Yi didn't say anything, someone would leak some information. The Blue Cloud School's goal was the 4 little ones. In other words, even if the Chu family gave up the challenge, in the end, Lin Yi might have the ability to let the Chu family enter the 10 little ones. Even if that wasn't glorious, Chu Yintian felt that compared to 1,000 spiritual jades, it wasn't a big deal. Does the Chu family want a wagered battle? If you don't, then quickly give up. The great elder of Ruins Town urged impatiently. The Chu family, Xuanji School, and Thousand Blades School were all related to Lin Yi. As a member of Qianquan School sent to Ruins Town, the great elder of Ruins Town naturally wouldn't treat the Chu family well. Chu Yintian was still hesitating, but Chu Tianlu raised his voice and said, "Of course we want a wagered battle. If we don't want a place in the 10 little ones, who would fight for this reserve qualification? However, we don't have 1,000 spiritual jades right now. Please wait a moment, and let the Chu family gather enough spiritual jades. In any case, there's no need to follow any order for the wagered battle. Those who want a wagered battle later can start first." Since Chu Tianlu, the head of the family, had spoken, Chu Yintian had no choice but to accept. After all, because of Lin Yi, Chu Tianlu's words held great weight in the Chu family. This kind of thing was completely decided by Chu Tianlu. Lin Yi nodded approvingly at Chu Tianlu. During the time he came to Ruins Town, he had only seen Chu Tianlu and the others in a hurry. There were too many things to take care of the Chu family. However, Lin Yi was still at ease with the Chu family's strength. As long as they performed normally, it wouldn't be a big problem for the Chu family to enter the 10 little ones. As for the small amount of spiritual jades, Lin Yi did not care about it at all. As long as the Chu clan needed it, Lin Yi could pay for them at any time. Even the Profound Secrets sect would do the same. The only exception was the Thousand Blades faction. Lin Yi had already given the spirit jades to Ling Tianyu. Given the Thousand Blades faction's situation, Lin Yi had long expected that the Thousand Blades faction would not be qualified to challenge the Thousand Blades faction. Sure enough, this was the result. The first elder of the ruined town glanced at Du Jiezhenren. Seeing that Du Jiezhenren had no intention of objecting, he nodded and said, "Fine. Although it's against the rules, since Master Chu has brought it up, I'll make an exception. Does the Xuanji sect behind want to have a duel?" Hong Xianlei hesitated for a moment. After watching the previous 2 battles, Hong Xianlei was still a little hesitant about whether the Xuanji sect could defeat the 10 small sections. After all, he was the only golden core perfection cultivator in the Xuanji sect. Now that he had advanced to the nascent soul realm, there was no golden core perfection cultivator left. Love Gob Smalp say Netku in this way. In the battle of the golden core realm, there was basically not much chance of winning. In the battle of the nascent soul realm, he had just broken through to the early stage of the nascent soul realm, and had not yet stabilized his strength. It would be pure self-deception to say that he was confident. However, the matters of the Xuanji sect were no longer up to him to decide. Now, Hong Xuanlei's situation was somewhat similar to Chu Yintian's. No matter what he thought, the final decision was still made by Li Yunjia. Li Yunjia saw the encouraging look in Lin Yi's eyes, and had nothing else to say. He immediately decided to participate in the duel. The problem was that the Xuanji sect did not have much savings. After purchasing some things in the market, they could not take out 1,000 spirit jades for the time being. With the Chu family as an example, the Profound Secrets sect decided to wait for a while. The Grand Elder of Ruins Town did not dislike collecting spirit jades. After all, if they failed the challenge, the spirit jades would belong to the Grand Assembly of Ruins Town. Even though it would be split equally among the 4 families, it was still a decent sum of money. since the Chu family and the Xuanji sect both want to collect spirit jades for the duel. Then just wait for a while. If you don't have enough spirit jades in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the 10 minor challenge will officially end. Both of you should pay attention to the time. The first elder of the ruined town gave a very formal reminder. He was about to ask if the Xuanyu school, which had just fallen from the 10 minor challenge, wanted to participate in the duel. Seeing that the first elder had no intention of asking the Thousand Blades school, Ling Tianyu immediately stood up and said loudly, "First elder, why don't you ask if our Thousand Blades school wants to participate in the duel?" The first elder of the ruined town was startled. "You want to duel?" The spectators below started whispering again. They did not dare to speak too loudly, because of the invincible primeval realm Great Circle Nascent Soul stage. But they still had to discuss quietly. It was not unreasonable for the first elder of the ruined town to directly ignore the Thousand Blades school. There were only 2 people in the Thousand Blades school, but if they wanted to challenge the 10 minor challenges, they would need at least 3 people to sign up, right? Moreover, it was not easy for the Thousand Blades school to obtain a reserve qualification. Logically speaking, it was unlikely that they would directly challenge the 10 minor challenges this time. They should accumulate their strength and wait for the next immemorial grand meeting. But looking at Ling Tianyu, it seemed that they could not wait for the next time. "Can't our Thousand Blades school have a duel?" Ling Tianyu said with some displeasure. The first elder of the ruined town waved his hand. "That's not the case. Since the Thousand Blades school has a reserve qualification, of course they can participate in the duel. But you only have 2 people now. Do you want to recruit one? This is not in line with the rules. Or do you want to directly give up on the Gold Core Challenge? Do you want to treat it as a loss before it even starts?" It was impossible to cancel the Golden Core Arena and replace it with a Foundation Establishment or Nascent Soul stage. Whether it was Ling Tianyu or Invincible Primeval, they were almost invincible in the same realm. It would be unfair for them to fight 2 Foundation Establishment or 2 Nascent Soul stage. The first elder of the ruined town would never agree to such a proposal, so he could only let the Thousand Blades school admit defeat first. But in this way, the challenge sect only needed to win 1 match to win all the matches, while the Thousand Blades school had to ensure that they won both matches without the slightest mistake. After listening to the first elder of the ruined town, Ling Tianyu put forward the suggestion he had already considered. "Our Thousand Blades school will not admit defeat. 3 matches are still 3 matches. I will fight in the Golden Core Arena. Even if we are no match for them, we will definitely not retreat. Are you sure you want to do this?" The first elder of the ruined town, who had always been expressionless, showed a very surprised look. He continued to ask, "Do you know what this means? You are a cultivator in the great perfection of the Foundation Establishment realm. No matter how strong you are, you will definitely be killed in a second when facing a cultivator in the great perfection of the Golden Core realm. I have never heard of such a thing. If you admit defeat at that time, you may not have a chance." Chapter 55-54. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go? TalkNet, providing you with wonderful novels to read. "Thank you, Great Elder, but I have decided," Ling Tianyu said unwaveringly. He could vaguely feel that he was about to break through. If he really faced Jindan consummation, the pressure between life and death was likely to make him break through. For a genius like Ling Tianyu, elixirs were indeed very effective, but he could still break through without elixirs. Moreover, Ling Tianyu was not worried that he would be killed in a second. With Lin Yi by his side, it was simply impossible for a mere Jindan consummation to kill Ling Tianyu in a second. The great elder of the ruins town took a deep look at Ling Tianyu and nodded lightly. "In that case, it is decided. Your Thousand Blades faction will take out 1,000 spiritual jades, and we can start the duel." Lin Yi had already prepared 1,000 spiritual jades for them. After Ling Tianyu handed it to the great elder, he pointed at Wei Yidao and said, "Thousand Blades faction challenges Hegemon Blade School. Wei Dao, come out. How dare you? There is a road to heaven, but you choose to break into the gate of hell. Wei Dao laughed and stood up. He pointed at Ling Tianyu and said, Since you are so eager to die, I will fulfill your wish. As soon as he stepped onto the arena, Wei Dao unsheathed his thick-backed long saber. The saber light soared into the sky, and the momentum of the saber was more violent than when he fought with Yu Lingfeng. Obviously, Wei Dao did not dare to be careless in the battle against Ling Tianyu. Ling Tianyu snorted coldly. Numerous flying needles flew up and formed two silver flying swords in the air. They met Wei Dao's long saber, with the momentum of two dragons coming out of the sea. Love go little say, neck the dense sounds of metal colliding rang out. Ling Tianyu did not stay in the same place. His figure moved like a fleeing rabbit, and he quickly changed his position. While controlling the flying needles, he used his fists and feet to launch sneak attacks on Wei Dao. Ha 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 ha, Ling Tianyu, is that all you have? You actually dare to challenge me? If you have no new moves, then just wait for your death. Wei Dao laughed maniacally. His saber force surged once again. The two flying swords formed by the flying needles were instantly shattered and turned back into flying needles. Ling Tianyu's complexion changed slightly. From the battle between Wei Dao and Yu Lingfeng just now, Ling Tianyu discovered that Wei Dao's saber momentum could restrain his 1,000 flying blades. In theory, Yu Lingfeng's light feather arrow was somewhat similar to the 1,000 flying blades. Therefore, Ling Tianyu had condensed the 1,000 flying blades together from the start. He didn't expect that it would still be scattered by Wei Dao. Wei Dao's arrogance was not without reason. Ling Tianyu had already overestimated Wei Dao, but in the end, he still underestimated him. Ling Tianyu, are you just going to wait for death? Ha 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 ha, this young master really overestimated you. Turns out that you're just a good-for-nothing. After Wei Dao shattered Ling Tianyu's flying swords, his saber momentum had completely locked onto Ling Tianyu. Compared to Yu Lingfeng, Ling Tianyu's movement technique was really not worth mentioning. Love Gope Small say, Neku, if Ling Tianyu didn't have any other tricks up his sleeves, he would have been cut down by Wei Dao's saber in a breath's time. After all, Wei Dao had gone all out this time, which was completely different from when he was facing Yu Lingfeng. Ling Tianyu's eyes narrowed, and he quickly retreated. At the same time, he recalled the 1,000 flying needles to his side, forming a needle wall in front of him to block Wei Dao's long saber. The needle wall had just been formed when Wei Dao's long saber had already chopped down. Sparks splashed and silver light scattered in all directions. A black dagger suddenly flew out from behind the needle wall. Wei Dao's tyrannical saber momentum could not stop this black dagger at all, just like how water could not stop a swimming fish. Ling Tianyu let the black dagger stab straight into his heart. You tricked me. Wei Dao was shocked and angry at the same time. He really didn't expect Ling Tianyu to have such a trick up his sleeve. Not only could his saber momentum not block it, but his protective chi could also not block the black dagger. By the time Wei Dao reacted, it was already too late to dodge. At this time, Wei Dao finally understood that the needle wall used to block the long saber was completely to cover up the sneak attack of the black dagger. At such a close distance, the black dagger could hit its target in one shot. For this attack, Ling Tianyu also threw caution to the wind. Wei Dao's long saber had already chopped down. At this time, it was already impossible to determine who would be hit first, or both of them would be hit at the same time and perish together. Wei Dao deserved to be a ruthless person. He was ruthless to the enemy and also to himself. Seeing that he could not avoid the black dagger, Wei Dao simply protected his vital parts and poured his chi into the long saber without reservation. He wanted to kill Ling Tianyu on the spot before he was injured. Ling Tianyu's eyes were cold, and he focused all his attention on controlling the black dagger. Those flying needles had completed their mission, so Ling Tianyu had given up on controlling them at this time. Facing Wei Dao's mutually destructive fighting style, Ling Tianyu also showed absolute toughness. On the premise that his control of the black dagger was not affected, Ling Tianyu tried his best to dodge to the side. If he gave up controlling the dagger, He might be able to completely avoid Wei Yidao's saber momentum, but Ling Tianyu obviously did not want to give up this opportunity. Once Wei Yidao got a chance to breathe, the outcome of the battle would become unpredictable again. Life and death were decided in an instant. Both of them shouted at the same time, "Kill!" Almost at the same time, the black dagger and the long saber hit their respective targets at the same time. A huge saber mark, so deep that bones could be seen, ran from Ling Tianyu's left shoulder to his waist. If Ling Tianyu had not been wearing the soft armor of the Thousand Blades sect, Wei Yidao's saber might have directly chopped him into two halves. Wei Yidao was not in a good situation either. Under Ling Tianyu's control, the black dagger flashed past the sheath that Wei Yidao used to defend and directly pierced through Wei Yidao's left chest, then flew out from his back. Originally, Ling Tianyu wanted to turn around and attack from the back again, but because he had been hit by Wei Yidao, he could not continue to control the black dagger. Wei Yidao spat out a mouthful of blood. He could no longer hold on to the long saber, and it fell directly onto the stage. At the same time, his legs gave way, and he knelt on the ground. From the appearance of their injuries, it was obvious that Ling Tianyu had more visual impact, but Wei Yidao's heart meridian was injured by the black dagger. Although the black dagger, which was aimed at his heart, was slightly deflected by Wei Yidao at the last moment, it still rushed past the edge of his heart. Ling Tianyu, on the other hand, only looked seriously injured. Because his armor had blocked most of the attack, he actually did not receive a fatal blow. This could be seen from the fact that one of them was still standing straight, while the other was kneeling on the ground. However, the great elder of Ruins Town, who was biased towards the hegemon saber school, did not think so. Chapter 55-55. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go? Talk.net, providing you with wonderful novels to read. The audience was in an uproar. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Wei Yidao's injuries were so serious that he couldn't stand up again. Although he hadn't completely collapsed, since he couldn't stand up, it should be a loss. A draw. What the hell was that? Even if the great elder of the Ruins Town was from the Qianquan sect, the law didn't punish the masses. Everyone was talking about it, and they weren't afraid of being targeted by the Qianquan sect. Primordial Invincible Spirit immediately jumped onto the arena and sneered. A draw? Our Thousand Blades sect doesn't agree. Let Wei Yidao stand up and continue the fight. The great elder of the Ruins Town was stunned. Whether Ling Tianyu could continue fighting or not, at least it seemed that Wei Yidao couldn't. Ling Tianyu smiled weakly and said, "Invincible Patriarch, it's good for Wei Yidao to kneel like this. Don't you see that he's kowtowing and apologizing to us?" Haha, that's right. Primordial Invincible Spirit was amused. Wei Yidao was kneeling on the ground with his hands supporting his body, and he happened to be facing Ling Tianyu. It wasn't wrong to say that he was kowtowing and apologizing. Wei Yidao was so angry that he couldn't help but spit out another mouthful of blood. The last trace of his strength was completely exhausted with this mouthful of blood, and his body softly fell to the ground. Love Gob Little Pse Netka this time. The great elder of the Ruins Town had nothing to say. Under Primordial Invincible Spirit's mocking gaze, he could only announce with a frosty face, "Wei Yidao is unable to fight anymore. The Thousand Blades sect challenges the Tyrant Blade sect." In the first match of foundation building, Ling Tianyu of the Thousand Blades sect wins. If he knew that Wei Yidao was so easily provoked, the great elder of the Ruins Town wouldn't be so biased towards him. In the end, he became a villain in vain, and was secretly mocked by the audience. "Tianyu, are you okay?" After the result came out, Primordial Invincible Spirit immediately supported Ling Tianyu, who was on the verge of collapse, and stuffed a 5th grade recover pill into his mouth. These were the backup elixirs that Lin had prepared for them. Naturally, they were all of the best quality. Ling Tianyu's injuries looked serious, but under the effect of the great cyclic elixir, he was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. "Disciple is fine. There is no need to worry, Invincible Patriarch." Ling Tianyu's complexion looked much better. At the very least, some color had returned to his face. The members of the Hegemon's Blade sect quickly went up the stage to bring Wei Yidao back and treat him. As for the great elder of the ruined town, he coldly stared at Primeval Invincible and Ling Tianyu in a businesslike manner. Next is the Battle of the Golden Core stage. Is the Thousand Blades sect ready? The people of the Tyrant Saber School had not even come up, yet the great elder of Ruined Town had already started pressing the Thousand Blades School. Clearly, he was very displeased. Love Gobe Small say Netka before Primordial Invincible could say anything. Shengguan Qingyan, who was by the side, said indifferently, "Can't you see that he hasn't recovered from his injuries? Also, after a big battle just now, they are going to fight someone of a higher level. Where is the fairness of the Archean Grand Meeting?" The great elder of the ruined town's face darkened. He could ignore the words of others, but Shengguan Qingyan was different. He knew that the Qinkuan sect had suffered losses at the hands of the Shengguan family. He could only force a smile and say, "What does the master of the Shengguan family mean? Do you still need to ask? Let's start the Battle of the Nascent Soul stage first, and then the Golden Core stage. At least let them rest and take a breather, right?" Shengguan Qingyan said matter-of-factly. In name, the Shengguan family was the backing of the Thousand Blades School. There was no problem for them to say a few words of fairness at this time. Therefore, the people below the stage did not find it strange at all. Moreover, Shengguan Qingyan's proposal was also reasonable. There was nothing wrong with it. Although the great elder of the ruined town wanted Ling Tianyu to immediately fight in the Golden Core stage, and then be instantly killed. Since Shengguan Qingyan had said so, it was clearly not something he could decide. Sneaking a glance at Sage Overcoming Calamity, and seeing that Sage Overcoming Calamity had no intention of objecting, the great elder of the ruined town could only nod and say, "In that case, let's start the Battle of the Nascent Soul stage first. Let's invite the Nascent Soul stage from the Thousand Blades School and the Hegemon's Blade School." Primordial Invincible cupped his hands at Shengguan Qingyan and said, "Thank you, Master of the Shengguan family, for speaking up for justice." Shengguan Qingyan smiled and waved his hand, saying, "You're too polite, Brother Primordial. As long as you can win this battle, you can be promoted to the 10 youngsters. I wish Brother Primordial a victory in advance." "Thank you for your auspicious words." Primordial Invincible smiled and nodded. He was very confident about this battle. After all, he was once the #1 nascent soul cultivator in the ancient underworld. Even now, the number of people who could defeat him would not exceed the fingers on one hand. But this definitely did not include the nascent soul old monsters of the Hegemon's Blade School. Just like what Shengguan Qingyan said, as long as he won this battle, there was no need for Ling Tianyu to continue with the Gold Core Realm battle. Ling Tianyu returned to the seats of the Thousand Blades School and sat down. He closed his eyes and entered into a state of cultivation. Firstly, he wanted to recover from his injuries as soon as possible. Secondly, he wanted to try to make a breakthrough. The moment of life and death just now had given him a lot of inspiration. Perhaps he could step into the Gold Core Realm. In fact, it was not a good time to enter the Gold Core Realm now. Ling Tianyu believed that Primordial Invincible could win this nascent soul realm battle. Hence, the Thousand Blades School would continue to be challenged by other sections. At that time, Ling Tianyu, who had just advanced to the Gold Core Realm, would obviously be targeted. Moreover, without a Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator, Ling Tianyu could not lower his cultivation level, and could only give up on the Foundation Establishment Realm battle. With these concerns, Ling Tianyu could only try to step into the Gold Core Realm first, but he would not easily take the last step. On the arena, the Supreme Elder of the Hegemon's Blade School, Wei Tianba, walked slowly. Every step he took caused his aura to increase. However, Wei Tianba was only in the mid-nascent soul realm. No matter how much his aura increased, Primordial Invincible did not take him seriously. The light of a firefly dares to compete with the light of the moon? Primordial Invincible smiled proudly, and let Wei Tianba slowly walk onto the arena. He would not be like Wei Yidao, who did not even greet him, and directly attacked with his saber. Wei Tianba laughed loudly and said, Primordial Invincible, your name was indeed as bright as the moon in the past. Unfortunately, it is no longer your era. You, Primordial Invincible, want to dominate the small immemorial underworld again? I'm afraid there is no hope. Primordial Invincible sneered and said, Even if this old man cannot dominate the small immemorial underworld again, it is not a problem to deal with an ant like you. A mid-nascent soul realm cultivator was indeed a rare expert. However, in front of Primordial Invincible, a peak nascent soul realm cultivator, he was indeed an ant. At most, he was a slightly stronger ant. Who is the ant we will soon know. Wei Tianba suddenly laughed sinisterly. He stood about 1 zhang away from Primordial Invincible, raised his left hand, and threw a bronze mirror above Primordial Invincible. Primordial Invincible's expression suddenly changed, and he cried out in alarm, True illusion mirror. Chapter 55-56. Before he finished speaking, the bronze mirror in the air shone brightly and completely enveloped Primordial Invincible. Even if Primordial Invincible was at the great perfection of the nascent soul realm, it was impossible for him to dodge the light. Fortunately, the light did not harm Primordial Invincible, who was enveloped by it, was not hurt at all. However, Primordial Invincible's expression was much worse than if he had been slashed by Wei Tianba. Linny frowned slightly and asked Xian Yijie in a low voice, What is the phantasm mirror? Are there any rules that prohibit the use of tools? It was obviously impossible to say that the bronze mirror was a weapon. It could only be a tool, similar to the shape-shifting urn that Chu Tianliang used before. Xian Yijie also lowered his voice and said, The phantasm mirror is a precious one-time tool. It can replicate a real phantom in a short period of time. The phantom's strength is almost equal to the original body. The Archean Grand Meeting does not prohibit the use of such tools. Lenny nodded, and his expression became a little serious. From Xian Yijie's description, he could already see Primordial Invincible's predicament. What Xian Yijie did not mention was that under normal circumstances, such precious tools were used to protect one's life. Few people would use them in a battle. However, they were competing for the 10 small ones. Moreover, the grudge between the 1,000 Blades sect and the Hegemon's Blade sect could not be resolved. If Wei Tianba took the opportunity to kill Primordial Invincible, it would not be a waste. At that moment, the light on the arena suddenly split into two. Then, the bronze mirror in the air made a crisp cracking sound and turned into glittering fragments. They completely disappeared before falling to the ground. Two identical figures vaguely appeared in the 2 pillars of light. Wei Tianba chuckled and said, Primordial Invincible, let me see how powerful you are now. Before he finished speaking, the replicated Primordial Invincible in the pillar of light that appeared later attacked Primordial Invincible's original body with great force. Wei Tianba did not intend to just wait. He drew his long saber and attacked Primordial Invincible from the side. If it was a head-on battle, Wei Tianba would definitely not be Primordial Invincible's opponent. However, Wei Tianba was only supporting from the side. The main attacker was Primordial Invincible's clone. Its strength was almost the same as Primordial Invincible's. The power produced was completely different from the original calculation. Grandmaster, it seems that Primordial Invincible is going to lose. Although the phantasm mirror can only last for a short period of time, the clone can only exist for 3 minutes. But with Wei Tianba's cooperation, the outcome is very likely. Xian Yijie said softly. He knew what Linny was thinking. If the 1,000 Blades faction failed, Linny could only push the 1,000 Blades faction to the top after he became one of the Big Four. In that case, the 1,000 Blades sect would not be able to convince the masses, and the Jadian sect would also be criticized by many sections. Once Lin Yi returned to Sky Tier Island, all the pressure would fall on Xian Yijie. I know. Let's not worry about Primordial Invincible first. He is a nascent soul Great Circle expert. Even if he can't win against me and Wei Tianba, it should not be difficult for him to protect himself for a short period of time. I'd better go and check on Ling Tianyu's injury. After Lin Yi finished speaking, he quietly went to the Thousand Blades faction. Everyone was paying attention to the rare top battle in the arena. No one noticed Lin Yi's movement. After coming to Ling Tianyu's side, Lin Yi directly grabbed Ling Tianyu's pulse and continuously transferred the spiritual qi from the space of the jade pendant to him. Ling Tianyu was slightly surprised, but he immediately realized that it was Lin Yi. So he cooperated with Lin Yi's spiritual qi and quickly healed his injury. In fact, Ling Tianyu's injury recovered very quickly with the Great Recover Pill of the 5th grade. However, Lin Yi's method was obviously more effective. Because time was limited, Lin Yi could not wait any longer. As for Ling Tianyu, he had long been impressed by Lin Yi's miraculous ability. So, he did not feel strange at all when Lin Yi suddenly came to heal him. Tianyu, listen carefully. This time, the Tyrant's Blade School should have received the full support of the Qingkuan sect. So, your invincible patriarch will soon taste the taste of failure again. If the Thousand Blades faction still wants to advance to the 10 minor sects, their last hope is that you can defeat the Gold Core Cultivator of the Tyrant's Blade School. After healing Ling Tianyu, Lin Yi transmitted his voice to Ling Tianyu. Ling Tianyu was slightly stunned. He immediately looked up at the arena, and his expression suddenly became extremely worried. At this time, on the arena, Invincible Primordial was being forced into a difficult situation by his clone and Wei Tianba. Although his life was temporarily not in danger, there was no hope for him to drag it out until the clone disappeared. You don't have to worry. Invincible Primordial's strength is quite good. At least his life is not in danger. Now, you must listen carefully to what I have to say. This is related to whether the Thousand Blades faction can successfully advance to the 10 minor sects. Moreover, there is only one chance to win. If you miss it, you won't get another chance. Lin Yi did not waste any time and continued to transmit his voice to Ling Tianyu. Ling Tianyu calmed his mind and nodded solemnly to Lin Yi. Lin Yi then said, although the cultivation method of the Tyrant's Blade School is overbearing, their inheritance is not complete. I have taken a look. Whether it is Wei Yidao or Wei Tianba, when they attack, there will be a fatal flaw. If you can grasp this flaw, you can defeat the opponent's Gold Core Cultivator in one fell swoop. Hearing this news, Ling Tianyu's eyes suddenly lit up, and his gaze towards Lin Yi became eager. After all, Ling Tianyu was going to challenge someone of a higher level. It would be strange if Ling Tianyu had the confidence to do so. Even if Ling Tianyu had broken through to the Gold Core realm, it was unlikely that he would be a match for someone in the Gold Core realm. Remember, the fatal flaw of the Tyrant's Blade School will only appear for a moment. If you can't grasp it, admit defeat immediately. The opponent will not give you a second chance. Do you understand? Lin Yi's expression was quite serious. Of course, he could guarantee that Ling Tianyu would not be killed instantly. He could even secretly help Ling Tianyu defeat his opponent. However, Lin Yi disdained to use this method. Ensuring that Ling Tianyu would not die was Lin Yi's final bottom line. As for whether Ling Tianyu could defeat his opponent, Lin Yi had already done his best to help Ling Tianyu. Whether he could succeed or not depended on Ling Tianyu himself. At this time, the battle on the arena had entered a white-hot stage. Invincible Primordial roared repeatedly. Unfortunately, his decline was already irreversible. If it were not for the protection of the defensive formation around the arena, the aftermath of the battle would probably have killed a large number of low-level cultivators. Chapter 55-57. After receiving Lin Yi's guidance, Ling Tianyu immediately began to deduce. He did not know which Gold Core Cultivator the Tyrant's Blade School would send, but through his fight with Wei Yidao and Wei Tianba's live demonstration, Ling Tianyu was able to find some clues. After Lin Yi finished these things, he got up and left the Thousand Blades School's place, giving some spiritual jades to the Chu family and the Xuanji School. At this time, Primordial Invincible had already been forced out of the arena. In the battle between the Thousand Blades School and the Tyrant's Blade School, both sides had one win and one loss. Now it all depended on the last battle between the gold core cultivators. Ling Tianyu opened his eyes and ended the deduction in his mind. He immediately went up and asked with concern, "Invincible Patriarch, are you okay?" Primordial Invincible's face was a little pale. He shook his head gently and said, "I'm fine. I've already taken a recover pill. I'll be fine in a while." Primordial Invincible was quite unwilling to lose this battle. He was completely defeated by himself, and he almost persisted until the moment when the illusory mirror lost its effect. Less than 2 breaths after Primordial Invincible fell out of the arena, the clone of Primordial Invincible disappeared quietly. "Tianyu, this time our Thousand Blades School is a little unlucky. Let's make a comeback next time. Let's just give up the battle between the gold core cultivators." Primordial Invincible was silent for a moment and sighed. Ling Tianyu had just been injured. Although it looked like he had almost recovered, even if Ling Tianyu was in his peak state, he would definitely not be a match for a gold core exceptional realm expert. Primordial Invincible originally thought that he could avoid the battle between the gold core cultivators if he won. But now everything was over. He could not let Ling Tianyu die and ruin the future of the Thousand Blades School in vain. Ling Tianyu revealed a mysterious smile and whispered, "Invincible Patriarch, don't worry. This disciple is sure to win. Our Thousand Blades School can definitely enter the top 10. Sure to win." Primordial Invincible was slightly startled. Although he did not believe that Ling Tianyu was sure to win. Since Ling Tianyu said so, Primordial Invincible could not say anything. Turning his head to look for Lin Yi, Primordial Invincible thought to himself, "With this mysterious fellow here, Ling Tianyu's life shouldn't be in danger, right?" Since that was the case, he might as well let Ling Tianyu have a try. At this moment, the Great Elder of Ruins Town on the stage urged, "Next is the final Golden Core battle between the Thousand Blades Sect and the Tyrant Blade Sect. Those of the Thousand Blades Sect, hurry up and get on the stage. Don't waste time." Previously, the Great Elder of the Ruins Town wanted to side with Wei Yidao, but was provoked by Ling Tianyu's words, causing Wei Yidao to vomit blood. At this moment, the Great Elder of the Ruins Town was in a bad mood and naturally wanted to make things difficult for Ling Tianyu. After all, Ling Tianyu's injuries weren't light. In such a short period of time, it would be difficult for him to recover, even if he had a top-grade grade 5 great cyclic pill. Letting Ling Tianyu go up the stage earlier was equivalent to letting him die earlier. Ling Tianyu nodded heavily at Primordial Invincible and said confidently, "Invincible Patriarch, this disciple is going up. Be careful, don't force yourself. If you can't do it, jump off the stage immediately." Primordial Invincible reached out and patted Ling Tianyu's shoulder. Compared to letting the Thousand Blades Sect ascend to the 10 small ones, he still hoped that Ling Tianyu could be safe. Ling Tianyu agreed and turned around to quickly go up the stage. He had already changed his tattered clothes into other spare clothes, so the fact that the hideous wound had already healed was not discovered by anyone. The Tyrant Blade Sect had sent out a cultivator at the peak of the Golden Core late stage. He wasn't the strongest Golden Core exceptional perfection. Wei Yidao, who had already recovered a lot with the help of elixirs, sneered and said, "Ling Tianyu, don't say that our Tyrant Blade Sect didn't give you a chance. This time, we didn't send out a cultivator at the Golden Core exceptional perfection. You should die in peace, right?" Ling Tianyu glanced at Wei Yidao disdainfully and said indifferently, "If you die in peace, I will help you close your eyes." Before Wei Yidao could retort, the Great Elder of the Ruins Town on the stage had already announced the start of the third battle. The cultivator at the peak of the Golden Core late stage of the Tyrant Blade Sect unsheathed his long saber. The saber light was dazzling, and the saber aura swept out in all directions, instantly enveloping Ling Tianyu. Ling Tianyu's eyes narrowed slightly. He didn't move from his original position, but his eyes were tightly fixed on the tip of the long saber. Without a doubt, the strongest point of the Tyrant Blade Sect's saber aura was the tip of the saber. This was the point where all the power converged. However, this was also the only flaw that Lin Yi had mentioned. The strongest point was also the weakest point. It was just like a football match in the secular world. When one side played their strongest attack, and all the players pressed forward, once the attack was intercepted, they would have to face the consequences of being countered by the opponent. Ling Tianyu firmly remembered Lin Yi's words. There was a flaw in the Tyrant Blade sect's inherited mental cultivation method. Therefore, at the moment when the saber aura was about to rise, the tip of the saber would become the only flaw. That was the only chance for Ling Tianyu to win. If he missed it, there would never be a second chance. Time seemed to stop in an instant. The scene that he had simulated dozens of times in his mind just now reappeared perfectly in front of Ling Tianyu's eyes. He seemed to be able to see the opponent gathering all the vital qi at the tip of the saber. Once it was completed, the flaw would disappear completely. Victory or defeat would be decided in this instant. The black dagger shot out like a ghost. It was the dagger that had defeated Wei Dao just now. The dagger that could pierce through the saber aura of the Tyrant Blade sect. The peak of the golden core late stage of the Tyrant Blade sect only felt his vision blur, and his hand trembled violently. The vital qi that was gathering suddenly lost its point, and immediately fell into a violent turbulence. It even showed signs of backfiring. The nascent soul realm old monsters who were watching the battle all opened their eyes at the same time. There were different expressions on their faces. Some were surprised, some were playful, and some were deep in thought. No matter what expression they had, Ling Tianyu's move had indeed amazed everyone. In a flash, the tip of the black dagger rotated and collided with the tip of the long saber of the peak of the golden core late stage of the Tyrant Blade sect. Even if there was a slight difference, the two would only collide and fly apart. However, under Ling Tianyu's control, the black dagger became extremely accurate, and it pierced into the long saber without the slightest error. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.